White LEDs contain the least lead, but still include large amounts of nickel, a heavy metal that can cause allergic reactions in many people. Furthermore, the copper found in the bulbs can pose an environmental threat if it accumulates in the rivers and lakes where it can poison aquatic life. Researchers say that while breaking open a single LED and breathing in its fumes wouldn't likely cause cancer, the accumulation of these and other toxic substances in the environment could end up being a public health hazard. If any LEDs break at home, they recommend sweeping them up while wearing gloves and a mask, and disposing of the debris and even the broom as hazardous waste. You'll find a link to information on this story when you click the News of Note tab on our homepage, yourhometownhealth.com.
If your sights are set on the new year and a resolution for better physical health, yep, I mean the gym, don't let foot pain get in your way. Before you plan to step on that treadmill, take a few moments to learn how an active lifestyle can impact your feet. Earlier this year, the specialists at Tri-County Foot and Ankle talked to us about some of the more common foot complaints they see in their practice.
If anything hurts in your body, the body is telling you that something is wrong. It's a warning sign. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's something extremely severe, but something isn't right.
One of the most common injuries we see in the office is plantar fasciitis. It's basically an overuse injury where the ligament on the bottom is basically inflamed.
It's probably one of the #1 conditions that we see in adults. It is absolutely incredible how many people have it. There's a big ligament in the foot, on the bottom of the foot, that runs from the heel bone up through the arch to the toes. Due to the way a person walks, whether their foot flattens out too much when they walk or they have too high an arch, it causes an excessive pull on this ligament where it attaches at the heel bone. After a period of time, it can cause inflammation. Inflammation causes soreness, and when it starts to hurt, people come to the doctor. We do several things. After examining them, we take x-rays, because very often, because of the tugging and pulling of this tight ligament on the heel bone, it can irritate the heel bone, and often we see something that people hear about all the time, and it's called a heel spur. And that kind of goes along with the package. We try to reduce the inflammation, which is what causes the pain. We try doing oral medication. Often we do injectable medication. So we were able to calm it down, but you don't want it to stay, and you don't want to go through this again. So other things that we do physical therapy for it, where we stretch out and teach the patients how to stretch after they finish the physical therapy to try to keep the condition from coming back. We often make something for them called an orthotic, which repositions their foot, has them walk appropriately, and takes the pull off of that ligament on the bottom of the foot where it attaches to the heel.
Custom orthotics will definitely help support it, and if we can give that support on the bottom with an orthotic, it'll take the stress off the ligament and decrease inflammation by the heel, and that should reduce your pain. Heel pain is a very common complaint in our practice, and it's very avoidable if you have the proper education and know what to do. So don't put it off, don't ignore it. It's a warning sign that something's happening in your feet, and it's treatable with early intervention.
You'll find information for Tri-County Foot and Ankle when you click the pain-free story link icon online at yourhometownhealth.com. The holiday season is a great time of year to show some special attention to the ones we love and show them how much we care.
If you're noticing that a spouse or family member is avoiding conversations or asking to have a conversation repeated, it may be time to intervene. In September, Mark brought us this story about when to consider getting a hearing test.
Routine wellness visits are important for several reasons. Not only are they a way to help keep you healthy, but they're also a way to catch some problems early on. Most of us visit our primary care doctor once a year, our dentist twice a year, and get our vision tested at least every 2 years. But do you know when to get a hearing test? Hearing loss might cause you to miss out on more than you realize. When you can't hear or respond to sound, or when you don't understand the conversation, you can't participate in the world around you. About 37 million Americans have hearing loss, and although 95% of them could be helped by a hearing aid, less than 30% use a hearing aid. The hearing aid and audiology specialists at Lake, Ear, Nose, Throat, and Facial Plastic Surgery have helped many of their patients take back their lives by helping them to hear better. They explain when you should consider getting your hearing checked.
We recommend people come in every 2 years for a hearing test unless they say that there's a problem in between, because then it could be a medical problem, so they should go ahead and come in. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's a family member that sends the patient in, but if the patient's, honest with themselves, they'll notice that when they're in a group setting, they start to not include themselves in the conversations because they're not quite hearing everything and they don't want to be embarrassed by answering incorrectly, so they just kind of withdraw from the conversation. We always tell people, just stop and look at your surroundings. How often am I having to ask people to repeat themselves, or how often am I not hearing it so I don't answer? Those are kind of the signs that maybe you need to start getting a hearing test so we can see where you're at. A hearing test consists of 3 components. There's air conduction, which is through headphones or insert headphones, speech testing, where we have them repeat words back to us, and bone conduction, which actually stimulates the hearing nerve. So all 3 of those components are required by law so that we can tell what type of hearing loss you have. What we're finding is that younger people now need to come in for baseline hearing tests because we live in such a noisier environment that maybe our parents did. The music, their jobs, there's just a lot more noise involved. It used to be, 60, 65, but if you're 50, 55 and you feel like you're starting to struggle, you should come in and let us test you so we can have a comparison. So if you feel like it's changed, we know what type of change there's been.
For more information on the hearing aid and audiology services available at Lake, Ear, Nose, Throat, and Facial Plastic Surgery, please click on the Hearing Solutions story link on our homepage at yourhometownhealth.com.
While it may not be all goodies and gift wrap, this really can be the most wonderful time of the year. Here are a few stress-less tips to bring out the happy in happy holidays. First, don't focus on having the perfect holiday. Nothing is ever perfect anyway. Focus instead on doing things that are enjoyable and include some time for relaxation. Revise your expectations. Do you expect you have to create the perfect holiday or give the perfect gift? Resist this thinking. That mindset will only run you ragged and leave you feeling exhausted at the end of the season. Avoid overspending. Spending beyond your limits will only increase post-holiday stress. Instead, consider giving a homemade gift, such as baked goods, which will allow you to give something of yourself. This could also be an opportunity to reconnect with your own religious and cultural traditions. Just say no. It may be counterintuitive to cut back on activities this time of year, but overextending yourself can leave you stressed, exhausted, and feeling resentful. Pay tribute. For people who have experienced the loss of a loved one, especially a recent loss, the holidays can be particularly difficult or bittersweet. Try finding a way to incorporate old traditions and honor your loved ones during this season. You'll find information on this story when you click the News of Note tab on our homepage, yourhometownhealth.com.
Activities like reading and doing puzzles have long been recommended to fend off a failing memory, but now a new memory-boosting font could also be making a difference. Researchers at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in Australia created the font called Sans Forgetica to help students remember their study notes. Now it's moving beyond the classroom to help others with memorization. Here's a look. The font is a sans serif style typeface with 2 unusual features. It slants slightly left, which is a rarely used design principle in typography, and it's full of holes. These holes have a purpose, though. They make Sans Forgetica harder to read, tricking your brain into using deeper cognitive processing and promoting better memory retention. The psychological learning principle is known as desirable difficulty, and the holes force you to dwell on each of the words just a little bit longer. For more information on Sans Forgetica or to download the font for free, just click the News of Note tab on our homepage at yourhometownhealth.com. We'll link you there. Throughout the year, Hometown Health is committed to keeping you up to date with the news that affects our health and well-being. It's time now to check in with the Daily Commercial News and 90 anchor Lori Davis with some health headlines that are impacting Lake County. Lori?
Thanks, Mark. Every year, Lake and Sumter community members gather together to support the Livestream Foundation's annual Gala of Hope. This year's Jeans and Jerseys themed event, once again presented by Kevco Builders and the Zeiler family, proved to be one of the most impactful Livestream galas ever, according to attendees. Featured guests of honor, Kevin Hines, well known for surviving his suicide attempt after jumping from the Golden Gate Bridge, shared his emotional story of triumph over tragedy. Over $119,000 was raised, which will be used to provide critical mental health services and suicide prevention for children and their families in our community. Congratulations are in order for Florida Hospital Waterman for being recognized as one of the region's leading hospitals for patient safety and quality by the Leapfrog Group. The Leapfrog Hospital safety grades are provided as a public service by the Watchdog organization and is the gold standard for patient safety. It measures a hospital's overall performance in keeping patients safe from preventable medical errors, injuries, and infections within the hospital. Florida Hospital Waterman is the only hospital in Lake County to earn 11 consecutive A grades since spring of 2013. A Tavares woman battling ovarian cancer is being featured in a new public service announcement on the subject. 77-year-old Karen Ingalls has been fighting ovarian cancer for over a decade. At the time of her diagnosis, she was given a 50% chance of living 5 years. Today, Ingalls celebrates a decade of survivorship by educating women about the disease and its treatment options through a book she has written and a blog she maintains. Ingalls says she was honored when she was asked to take part in the PSA called Not on My Watch, which features women of varying ages also beating ovarian cancer. The PSA was directed by actress Kobe Smulders of How I Met Your Mother and Avengers fame. Smulders was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at age 25. The Not on My Watch movement was developed to inspire and inform women of all ages who have ovarian cancer at any stage. Stay tuned, we'll show you her PSA in its entirety on our next break. Back to you in the studio, Mark, and happy holidays to everyone at Hometown Health.
Thanks so much, Lori, and happy holidays to you and your family. We'll be watching for you for the Daily Commercial News at 90 on Lake-Sumter TV. For information on all of these stories, just click the Hometown Health headlines icon on our website at yourhometownhealth.com.
It's time to head to break for some important public service announcements, but there's so much more when we come back.
The specialists at Alani Medical Spa explain how a chemical peel just might be your holiday solution to great-looking skin.
And we may not be able to stop the hands of time, but we'll introduce you to one of Lake ENT's patients who may have come close.
We're also putting people on the spot to test their memory of the health headlines that made news in 2018. How well will you do? Join us all month long for the multi-award-winning Hometown Health in medical offices throughout Lake County and the Villages and on Lake-Sumter Television. You'll find LSTV on Xfinity, Spectrum, and Prism. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Ovarian cancer is devastating and difficult to diagnose. It's often only caught in advanced stages, and 4 out of 5 women will see the deadly disease return.
I knew when ovarian cancer recurs,
it's often incurable.
It was terrifying, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Until recently, following chemotherapy, women with recurrent ovarian cancer had to simply watch and wait for their disease to come back.
Well, we say,
not on my watch.
Not on my watch.
Not on my watch. Now, with maintenance therapies, women can extend their time in response and delay recurrence.
Knowledge and awareness of your choices empowers you
and gives you a greater sense of control.
Let's call for a change in ovarian cancer care.
The Not on My Watch movement empowers women facing recurrent ovarian cancer to take an informed and active role in managing their disease. Visit notonmywatch.com to learn more.
The content and information provided by Hometown Health is intended for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Always be sure to consult with your physician or other medical professional to determine what's best for you and your health.
Welcome back to Season 10 of the multi-award-winning Hometown Health, Good Things for Those Who Wait. In studio at Lake-Sumter State College, I'm Beverly Onstead.
And I'm Mark Roberts. 'Tis the season for all of those family gatherings and holiday parties. Chances are you're going to wind up in a few of those social media photos. With the help of Alani Medical Spa, Holiday Skin Survival, and facing 2019 with a fresh look couldn't be easier. In April, we talked to Jessica Folger-Arnold about the effectiveness of chemical peels to help you look and feel your best.
We offer two types of chemical peels. We have a radiance peel, which is made through Abashi. It's a lighter peel so that you don't have as much downtime. And then we also offer the VI peel, which has just a little bit more downtime, but we can tailor it to your schedule so that if you want to peel on certain days, we can actually tailor that so that you do peel and exfoliate the most on those days. The way we determine which chemical peel would be best for you is based on 1, your downtime, 2, which you would feel comfortable with, 3 would be what you're looking to achieve with your skin. Not everyone needs the VI peel, but not everyone needs a light chemical peel. It definitely depends on what you're wanting to treat. If you have severe sun damage, we're going to lean more towards the VI peel. If you're just wanting better tone and texture, a little bit more shiny skin, we'll go more towards either the silk peel or the radiance peel. The silk peel is our type of microdermabrasion. It's a dermal infusion. It's done with a diamond-plated head so that it's not aggressive to the skin, and it uses suction to remove the dead skin cells from the skin, and then it pushes a solution back into the skin to rehydrate it so that there's no downtime with that. It's made from someone who's concerned with lines and wrinkles to light breakouts or just wanting better tone and texture. Debbie came to me, and her concern with her skin was she wanted better tone and texture, and she wanted the pigmentation that was starting to set in to be taken care of. And when she came in, we went over a customized plan with her, and she has had wonderful results with her skin.
One of the first things I had done was laser for the spot removal, some age spot removal on my hands. The next thing that I had done was a VI peel, and that was just amazing. I had some redness and some discoloration when I first came in. After the peel, it literally peeled. It literally took a layer of skin off of my face within a matter of a week. And after that, things were smoother, redness was reduced, and overall appearance and strength of my skin was improved.
Our general philosophy here at Alani is our patients come first. We want everything to be customized to them, and we want them to be happy with the treatments that they're receiving, and when they leave, to be able to tell their friends and family.
For more information on the products and services available at Alani Medical Spa, please click the Holiday Skin Survival story link icon on our homepage, yourhometownhealth.com.
If there's even more personal improvement on your holiday wish list, let's push the reset button with this story we brought you back in May about the positive effects of maximizing your best features. A study conducted by a group of Johns Hopkins University researchers found that people who had plastic surgery were perceived as being healthier and more successful. Their results were published in JAMA Facial Plastic Surgery. In the study, researchers asked 483 people to take a web-based survey during which they were shown images of female patients before or after a facelift. Study participants were blind to the purpose of the study and to which patients had had cosmetic enhancements. The results of the survey revealed that patients who had facelift surgery were associated with views that they were younger, more attractive, healthier, and more successful, highlighting the positive influence these perceptions can have on social interactions. While a facelift can't turn back the hands of time, it can help you maximize your best features. We spoke with one patient from Lake, Ear, Nose, Throat, and Facial Plastic Surgery who shared her facelift experience with us.
I first started going to Lake, Ear, Nose, and Throat for microdermabrasion. I saw literature in the office and read online some very good comments and actually made an appointment with Dr. Madonna, went into him and told him that I was feeling that I was aging and what would he suggest. He said that looking at me, his advice would be that I would benefit most from a lower facelift and neck tuck. And I came home, asked my husband, told him, you know, why I wanted to do this. And he said, you know, great, if it would make me happy. So call Dr. Madonna. He's very thorough and exactly what you want in a plastic surgeon, trustworthy. He wants to make sure that you are healthy and able to handle the procedure. I'm very thrilled. I mean, ladies would be saying, oh, Joan, I love it. Where did you get your hair? You know, it's gorgeous. You should wear it like that way. And you go, have you lost weight? And I love that lipstick. And I go, I had a lower facelift. Oh, my, you know. And really, once I tell people, they don't know. And that is their reaction, that they are surprised they can't tell, because in their experience, plastic surgery looks like plastic surgery, and mine doesn't.
For information on this story, as well as links to the specialists at Lake, Ear, Nose, Throat, and Facial Plastic Surgery, please click on the About Face story link icon on our homepage at yourhometownhealth.com. Hold on to your sleigh bells. We're dashing through the show with another round of some holiday newsworthy numbers.
About a pound. The amount of weight experts say the average American will really gain during holiday feasting. The bad news? Most Americans will not lose that pound, which adds up with other little pounds in the months and years to come.
150 minutes. That's the amount of moderate physical activity adults need each week to keep from looking like Santa and to maintain optimum health. Exercising can help you lose weight, improve your cholesterol, and even lower your blood pressure.
$720 billion. That's the amount of money Americans are expected to spend during the 2018 holiday season, according to the National Retail Federation. That number is up almost 5% from 2017 spending. Well, what would our year in review episode be without taking a look back at some of the health-related headlines that made news this year? In fact, we're going further back in time than 2018, back to the 17th century, courtesy of the Lady of the Lakes Renaissance Fair, a 2-weekend-long fundraiser for the Lake and Sumter County Educational Foundation. It's here, and well, only here, that we could find period players to put on the spot to test their knowledge of medieval medicine.
I'm Shadow the Executioner.
All right, good to know. So we're doing medieval medical trivia questions. Here's your first question. What disease had a 40% mortality rate and killed off about a third of your population?
My axe?
The plague.
Which one?
Bubonic.
What are you wearing?
Leather.
What color?
Is it the Black Plague?
It is indeed the Black Plague. 1 for 1.
Woo! I'm Mother of Dragons.
And this is your dragon?
This is my dragon.
Does your dragon have a name?
Kunu.
All right, here's your next question. I know when people like yourself get ill, back in the 1600s, you would turn to leeches. Relative to their body size, how many times a leech's body weight could it consume in blood?
I think 10 times.
I would say at least 2 to 3.
You're pretty close.
Well, I know my axe can consume about 20 times its weight.
Oh, man. Has to be... Do you know, Ruben?
No.
10 times.
How many times a leech's body weight can it consume in blood?
4.
Excellent.
So not quite as good as my axe.
Not nearly as good as your axe.
At festivals, I'm known as Captain Blue Bernard.
Blue Bernard. Here's your next one. What laboratory instrument was first developed in the 1600s?
Probably something with childbirth.
Laboratory instrument. In the 1600s, what laboratory instrument was developed?
My axe?
I'm seeing a theme.
Will this be the scalpel? The scalpel?
No, but a really good guess. Try another one.
All right.
A beaker.
Bail her out.
I don't have a good answer.
The microscope?
Excellent. You are correct.
Possibly the microscope?
You're 2 for 2.
Oh.
And I'm not just saying that because you got a big, scary instrument there.
Microscope. Oh, 1600s. Yeah, you're right. Microscope.
Oh, I thought you meant the 1700s. Oh, it all. Okay, here we go.
My name is Lord George Carey, the second Baron of Hunston.
Where is Hunston?
Hunston? It's like south or north of London-ish. Aye.
A Mastiff and a Spaniel were connected to each other. That's the key word. Were connected to each other in the first known attempt at this medical procedure.
The separation of conjoined twins? With an axe?
I don't even know what to do with that. Connected is the key word.
Oh, you got me on this one.
Transfusion?
You are absolutely correct. Blood transfusion.
Blood transfusion.
Rhymes with transfusion.
Transfusion? Transfusion!
There you go.
The only thing that I know is good with blood is when it falls on the ground.
From?
My axe.
Of course. Here's your final question. Whorehound syrup is used for what purpose?
After surgery?
That would be impressive in the 1600s. There wasn't an awful lot of surgery going on.
Oh, you're right.
A cure for the Black Plague?
Whorehound syrup. As a treatment for the Black Plague.
A very good guess.
I have no clue. For pancakes.
Coughs.
I bow before you, my lady. Coughs, sore throats, the syrup. No use whatsoever with
an axe.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
A big thanks goes out to all the participants for being such great sports. You can find this story when you follow the on-the-spot story link icon on our homepage at yourhometownhealth.com. And on that note, we bring the Year in Review episode to a close. Thanks so much for joining us.
And as always, thanks to all the Lake County specialists that make up the Hometown Health Network.
Bev and I will see you back here again in 2019. But until then, here's wishing you happy holidays, good health, and good things for those who wait. Hair and makeup for Hometown Health is provided by Talk of the Town, 106 South 2nd Street in downtown Leesburg.
Ovarian cancer is devastating and difficult to diagnose. It's often only caught in advanced stages, and 4 out of 5 women will see the deadly disease return.
I knew when ovarian cancer recurs,
it's often incurable.
It was terrifying, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Until recently, following chemotherapy, women with recurrent ovarian cancer had to simply watch and wait for their disease to come back.
well, we say,
not on my watch.
Not on my watch.
Not on my watch. Now, with maintenance therapies, women can extend their time in response and delay recurrence.
knowledge and awareness of your choices empowers you
and gives you a greater sense of control.
Let's call for a change in ovarian cancer care.
The Not on My Watch movement empowers women facing recurrent ovarian cancer to take an informed and active role in managing their disease. Visit notonmywatch.com to learn more.
You're watching LSTV, Lake-Sumter Television.
Hello, Central Florida, and welcome to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Building Supply. I'm your host, Don Magruder, and you're listening to Real Country Radio, AM 790 WLBE in beautiful Leesburg, Florida. I'd also like to welcome our viewers who are watching us today on Lake-Sumter Television. That's LSTV, courtesy of Red Apples Media. Romac Building Supply is the leading provider of building materials in the Central Florida area, including the Villages, Leesburg, Mount Dora, and Ocala. And since 1945, Central Floridians have been looking towards Romac Building Supply for all their construction needs. From the foundation to the rooftop, the professionals at Romac Building Supply has the area covered. Now, there's been a lot of turmoil and change in the local residential and commercial market in 2018. Interest rates have increased, material costs have increased, labor shortages has put buyers and builders in a real state of emergency in real estate and somewhat defensive. At times, the market has been a buyer's market, while others it seems to have evolved to a seller's market. Today, we're going to try to make sense of the 2018 local real estate market and give you the best advice we can for 2019. And we have some great experts to discuss this. Mickey Morrison is the Business Director of Development for RE/MAX Premier Realty. I'll get this out today. She'll be in our first segment, and she's going to discuss the ins and outs of the residential real estate market. There are a lot of moving parts that you really need to be aware of, and there's a lot of changes coming. In our second segment, Dan Tatro of Grizzard Commercial Real Estate will join us to discuss commercial real estate in Lake and Sumter County. There seems to be a lot of activity, but we will need to see if it's going to continue, and we want to let you know what's going to happen in 2019. No doubt, I have two of the best experts in real estate on the show today, and hopefully we can give you some good information. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mickey Morrison, the Director of Business Development for RE/MAX Premier Realty. Hello, Mickey. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back.
Mickey, we are so glad to have you back because it's a lot of moving parts in real estate, and I know you're right in the middle. But before we get going in our discussion, take a few minutes to tell everyone about yourself and RE/MAX Premier Realty. Plus, where are your offices located?
Definitely. So we've been in business since 1988, and in 1996, Bob and Nancy Dykeman bought the business. So we went from one office at that time to now we have 8 offices, and those include, now we have 2 in Ocala, 3 in the Villages, 1 in Mount Dora, which recently expanded, and 2 in Tavares, and we have over 160 agents.
Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions when people listen to and watch the show. What's a good contact email and phone number they can reach you if they have a question about something discussed on today's show?
Yes, anytime. We can be reached directly at 352-735-4060, and my direct email is my name, Mickey Morrison, at remaxpremier.net.
Mickey, in my view, Lake and Sumter County has a multitude of real estate markets. It's just not one market. You know, you have the Villages area, you have North Lake County, you have South Lake County, and the expanding Lake County area that's called the new Wekiva Parkway area because of the connection. How do you view these markets, and how do you think they're all doing?
Well, what's interesting is even though all of these markets are so close in proximity to one another, they're all extremely different from one another. The one thing that they all do have in common, though, is values have continued to increase and inventory remains fairly low. The Villages is continuing to expand, which isn't a surprise, and homes are moving very quickly there. In East Lake County, we're benefiting from the Wekiva Parkway, which is offering easy access, so it allows commuters and visitors to get around much more quickly. South Lake County is experiencing a big boom in development. And as far as North Lake, I really wouldn't be surprised if we had an increased demand for housing there, primarily because what we're seeing in the Ocala area, which kind of bumps up against that, is we have a lot of large distribution centers that have come. So we have Chewy, FedEx, and several others, so there'll be a need for labor.
And it is amazing, and each market has its own style of housing. And you mentioned the value and prices. Where are the affordable houses at?
We got to look for them pretty hard. That's actually one of our biggest challenges right now. We do have some affordable housing developments going up in different areas, one especially near Claremont. But the challenge is we're seeing that, especially with first-time home buyers, what they want and what they can afford has changed a little bit, and that's primarily because interest rates changing. But I don't see that making a severe difference. I think they can still find what they're looking for.
In the summer of 2018, 3 or 4 months ago, had a discussion with a realtor, and she phrased it this way: there's a shortage of buyers at certain levels. And when you're looking, we're looking at the real estate market, we're late in 2018. How would you describe the current real estate market?
We're still in a strong seller's market, but we're looking at a transition. I would say right now we're going through a transition to not a buyer's market, but more of a balanced market. And part of that is because there is that affordability gap that's happening a bit between what the buyers can afford and the pricing of homes. So that's changing the way things are playing out right now.
Are you seeing multiple offers on homes still?
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
Okay. I guess what I'm driving at, if someone puts a home on the market for sale and they get a fair offer, should they try to wait and go longer, or should you be hesitant to turn down a fair offer?
I would not hesitate to turn down a fair offer, not at all, because usually there's a saying in real estate that usually your first offer is your best. There are some exceptions to that, but I've seen many people that have gotten an offer and they think, well, I'm getting a good offer within 3 days of being on the market. Maybe I need to give it a little bit more time. Well, the reason they're getting that good offer is because there's a feeding frenzy as soon as it gets on the market. So if you turn down that offer and wait 2 weeks to get another offer, chances are that other offer is not going to be quite as hot.
And isn't there a old adage in real estate, the longer the house is on the market? For example, when someone looks at a listing and the house has been on the market for 3 months, there's something that goes in your mind saying, well, what's wrong with the house?
Oh, absolutely. And now, you know, there was a time where 3 months wasn't that crazy, but now it's like dog years in real estate. So 3 months is like 9 months because we've been moving so quickly.
Thinking about 2018, can you give us a little recap of the real estate market, how it's performed, and some of the challenges you think about? In other words, going back to January to now, how has the real estate market locally, Lake and Sumter County, evolved, and where do you think we're at now? Because the first of the year, it was post-Irma. We had just had a hurricane 4 months prior, a lot of activity. How are we looking now?
We're looking very strong still, and it's still a great time to buy or sell. The demand is still very high. Also, we're hoping that interest rates don't go up a whole lot so that buyers are still moving on what they're seeing on the market and making those offers. But they have to move very quickly. They have to think on their feet and make the offer.
Well, the thing about it, 1st of January, interest rates were around 3.99, the average rates. Now they're 5 and over, just at 5. Technically, that's like a 21% increase in interest rates. That's significant, isn't it?
That's very significant. Absolutely, it is.
So as people from January to now, the end of 2018, do you think we've lost some buyers in the market?
We have, and it wasn't because the buyers weren't trying. I think what happened was they were trying to get the homes that they wanted. There were multiple offers which kind of ran up prices a little bit, and then as interest rates increased, what they could actually purchase as far as a final amount decreased a bit.
But the other thing that's got to be affecting the market, you know, we've had major material price increases on housing this year, labor shortage, labor increase, the land has gone up in value.
Yep.
You have the new home equation. You know, I recently spoke to a home builder, said the lowest price home he can really build between $165, $170, and $190. That's the bare bones affordable housing. What are you seeing along those lines, Mickey?
We're seeing a really big need in homes, actually under 200.
Okay.
If an agent gets a home listed under 200, it is going to move quickly. Unless something really needs to be changed about the home, it will move. But yeah, that's where our biggest gap is.
Okay. Within these housing markets, so you have different type of housing products. You have affordable homes, you have family homes, you have active adult, and then what I call the housing for Orlando commuters. How are the inventories in these types of homes, and what challenges are you seeing in each segment? And we'll start with the affordable homes.
Well, again, affordable homes is the biggest area that we need some strong building to take place. We've got a few places that are focusing on that, but we need more of them. So first-time home buyers, what's happening is a lot of them are moving to rent. So what's happening there is our rental prices are increasing.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. It's not uncommon to see rental prices for apartments $1,000 plus a month.
Easily. It's actually really tough to get one under $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Now, what about family homes? You know, you got a lot of people who maybe had been married a while. They've got a couple of kids. How's the market for family homes?
Family homes is still very strong. If we're looking in numbers above 200, they're still moving quite quickly. Our inventory's on the low side, but it's creeping up.
Okay.
And I think it will keep doing that.
You keep talking about the price level at 200 below really selling. How are those houses 250 and above selling? That 250 to 400. Tell me if I'm wrong. I've always looked at the no man's land as 250 to 4, and then once you get past 4 to 5, that's a different buyer too.
Right.
But that 250 to 4, 4 and a quarter. How are those homes selling?
Those are still moving very well, especially in certain pockets. The Villages, for example, that's kind of an exception to the rule overall. But there we're looking at the average days on market under 60 easily, even if we're looking at the higher price points.
And that's something you can sell homes. RE/MAX Premier Realty can sell homes in the Villages and in most developments, correct?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
How are the active adult home sales going? Do you have enough inventory on those, and what's the general consensus on that, Mickey?
We're fairly balanced in that market right now, but what's happening is as we're building and as new homes are coming on the market, they're pretty much getting taken up right away by the buyers, because we still have retirees that are retiring in huge numbers. Yeah. So there's a big demand on that.
And housing for what I call the Orlando commuters. I know that primarily the Claremont area, but I guess it soon will be the Wekiva, Mount Dora, East Lake County area, because that's about as you can take that Wekiva and be into Orlando working in 25, 30 minutes.
Well, that's the greatest thing about the Wekiva Parkway is right now, for example, Mount Dora is turning into a suburb of Orlando, and that's benefiting Mount Dora in a lot of different ways. We're having more of a demand for housing, affordable housing, as well as some of the higher end housing, and things are moving quickly, and we're also having a lot of visitors that are making tourism not just limited to the Orlando area, but it's bringing tourists closer to the more residential areas.
You're listening to Around the House, sponsored by RE/MAX Building Supply. Our special guest is Mickey Morrison of the RE/MAX Premier Realty Company, and we're discussing the local real estate market. This segment is sponsored by RE/MAX Building Supplies Design Center. Think about building a new home, putting an addition on, or how about a remodel? Well, if you are, the first thing you need to do is call the good people at the RE/MAX Building Supply Design Center and let them put together some preliminary plans for you. This can help you with budgeting and selecting the builder for your specific project. For more information or a free consultation, call the RE/MAX Building Design Center at 352-787-4545. That's 352-787-4545, or stop by to see them at 700 East Main Street. We're talking to Mickey Morrison. She's the Director of Housing with RE/MAX Premier Realty. And Mickey, thinking about right now, what are the biggest problems selling and buying a home these days in the real estate market? What are your biggest problems? What's
I would say the biggest problem for a seller, and it's really not a problem because they're still getting very good prices for their homes is, depending on what price range they're in, finding the buyer that's going to be able to afford that. So that's one reason that our inventory is starting to increase a little bit. When that happens, supply and demand kind of come into play, and so we might be seeing a little bit of a softening on values there. As far as buyers, and this is more historical, I guess, for the year overall, is buyers have been having to be willing to look at multiple offer situations. So they're going in, they have to be very competitive. Sometimes they're missing out on the houses that they want because they're moving so quickly, and they have to be prepared. So to go in and make an offer, like for example, without a pre-qualification letter, would really set somebody back in a multiple offer situation. So preparation is huge.
And you're still seeing multiple offers.
We are, not as much as we were. Like this summer, it was very interesting. I know one situation where, and you get to when you've been in the business for a while, you can see a house and tell what's going to happen. And we had this one home listed, and we had 9 offers in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
Because it was ready to go. It was perfect inside and out. It wasn't anything terribly exceptional, but the seller did what they needed to do.
And that's amazing. Would you still define late 2018, early 2019 as a good time to sell a home?
Oh, most definitely, yeah. Sellers, because they're still getting great prices, for one thing. And they can have control over when they're going to close. So, for example, right now we're going into the holidays, and a lot of us think that this would be a terrible time to put a home on the market. It's actually a really good time to put the home on the market because you've got people that have the time to look, and they're usually more serious buyers. So this is a terrific time to sell. You can negotiate closings out later so that it fits your time schedule.
A lot of kids are on semester breaks, and that's also a good time to break and move kids to other schools.
Yes, that's a big factor.
What should prospective sellers understand about the market, and what should they do to prepare their home? I know you mentioned you had one seller that had 9 offers in a 24-hour period. Mm-hmm. What was his secret?
That was an interesting situation. What they did was, first of all, they got, I'm going to sound a little biased here, they got a very good realtor. They listened to that realtor.
Good realtor from who?
Can you imagine? They got him from Remax Premier Realty. Yep.
Okay.
They listened to that realtor, and what the realtor did was they said, okay, here's on the outside what we need to do, maybe just simply pressure washing, things like that. And on the inside, they did some things that were, some were functional, but most were cosmetic. They staged it, which is not that expensive, and because of that, they got easily $20,000 more than if they would if they had not done any of that.
Wow, that's amazing. So yeah. Sometimes it's good to listen to experts, isn't it?
Sometimes it really is. It's one of those things where you just, unless it's your field and you do that every day, you just don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely. 2018, one of the big storylines in construction, all of construction, has been material costs and labor costs. Material costs, because of tariffs and high demand in certain areas, were driven at record levels mid-year. Labor costs have been going up because of shortages, especially in skilled labor. This is reflected in higher priced homes, and I know you've alluded to that several times. What's your outlook for pricing next year? You know, I'm sort of hearing, okay, pricing was up this year. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but pricing was up, multiple offers, but things are, maybe not as many offers. What's your belief that how home prices will do next year?
They're softening a bit. In other words, I think they're still going to climb. It's still going to be a normal, healthy climb on pricing, but it's not going to be quite as steep as what we've been seeing. So we have to be really careful when pricing to constantly look at the market and constantly, not only when, for example, when you list a home, we look at the recent solds, the comparables, but we have to look at the comparables every month after that because things are changing so rapidly. It's important that you stay super competitive.
Okay, so I'm not going to put words in your mouth again. I'm hearing, and you tell me if I'm hearing it right, if you want to sell a home, it's probably better to do it earlier in 2019 than later, especially while I call them snowbirds, winter residents are here. Is that a fair summation?
I would definitely say so, yes. And I would say the same actually for buyers. It's better to buy sooner rather than later right now. We know where we are now. We're not necessarily knowing where we're going to be in 6 months. I don't think it's going to be anything radical. But right now we're at a good place as far as interest rates and prices for sellers.
Keep bringing up the interest rate equation.
Yeah.
Like I said, 3.99 in January 2018. Now we're right at 5%, I think 5.01%. And that's a 21% increase. In your view, has that pushed some buyers completely out of the market? And if we go to the 5.5 and 6, what does that do for other buyers, you think?
It might push some out, but I think overall what will happen instead is especially if you're working with somebody who's giving you good advice, is you'll expand your criteria for what you're looking for. So in other words, you might still get the home in the same price range, but you might need to move out a couple more miles.
Yeah.
Or you might need to not get that half bath. So you have to be a little bit more flexible.
Most people are saying they're forecasting interest rates to go higher in 2019. The realty community have any ideas where they think their interest rates will wind up in 2019?
Right now it's looking like we're going to stay in the 5s. If we hit 6, I'd be very surprised. I'm not saying it's not impossible, but right now we're in the low 5s, right around 5, and I don't think we're going to get out of the 5s. Is
it more important for the buyer or the seller to get off the fence in an interest rate increasing equation for the market?
Wow. Right now, my immediate reaction would be buyers, but actually it's both. Because if the buyers can't buy, then the sellers can't sell. If I were a buyer right now, I would definitely get off the fence and look.
Yeah, because you could be facing half point by the second quarter of 19.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally changes the picture.
You're listening to Around the House. Our special guest is Mickey Morrison from RE/MAX Premier Realty, and we're discussing this year and last year in residential real estate, and she's offering some great insight. Mickey, I guess one thing we need to talk about, because this is important, take us through the home buying process. You know, a lot of people, they want to buy a new home, maybe they want to sell theirs, but they hear about all the paperwork and process. And take us through that process real quick and what's going to be required if someone decides they want to buy a home.
Sure. Well, the first thing that they can do is give us a call, and what we'll do is connect them with an agent that specializes in the area that they're looking. And the first thing the agent will do...
What does that mean, area they're looking?
So, for example, let's say they're looking for a home in the Eustis area.
Okay.
Their criteria, basically. The agent should do a lot of listening. That's the most important thing. Once we've figured out what the buyer's looking for, we can narrow down the search. And then before we see any properties, I highly recommend that every buyer becomes pre-qualified. You want that letter in hand, because like I was saying earlier, if you see something that you really like, you need to make an offer quickly. And if you make an offer with a pre-qual letter, then you're going to move your offer up above the ones that don't have one.
And that's better than a pre-approved letter.
Yes. If you can get a pre-qual letter, that would be even better.
Yeah.
Yep, and your agent should be able to help you on that.
Okay, so you call a realtor. First off, they're going to call you at what number?
They can call us at 352-735-4060.
Call and say you're going to give them what area you want the house. Realtor's going to pick out what type of housing you're looking in that area, and I guess they'll arrange for you and the realtor to go visit the home.
Yes, they will, and they'll make sure that they're not wasting anybody's time. Generally, we try to get it down to, in a perfect world, looking at maybe 5-6 homes. If you're looking at too many things, the choices are too expansive. It's really hard to narrow down what you want, and a good realtor will really help you do that. They'll narrow it down and find what you want quickly before you miss out on it.
Now, a lot of people have this in their mind that say they're pre-qualified for a $400,000 home loan, but they don't want to tell you that because, you know, you're going to find them a $300,000 house and try to sell it for $400,000. Mm-hmm. But in today's market, that's pretty transparent, correct? And it's best to be upfront on what your true budget is, correct?
Yes. Yes, because that expands the horizons on what we can look for, and we may still end up finding something that's towards 300 that works better, but at least it gives us something to work with, and you're more likely to find what you need faster.
Okay, so you take people on tour of the house, they find the house they want, and they want to make an offer. Do they go through you to make the offer?
Yep, they go through the agent, and which is a very good thing because you want a third party who's doing the negotiating for you. And that's something that agents are very skilled at doing because they don't get personally involved. So that's the first thing. They'll negotiate on your behalf. Once you go to contract, then they'll be working with all the professionals, the inspectors, the title company, the mortgage company, attorneys. So they will take everybody who's involved and basically make them a team.
And they'll take you to the closing.
You bet. They'll take you to the closings. They'll hand you over the keys. You got it. I've done even beyond that. I've had people that I've closed properties with before that I'm still in contact with.
So a great realtor will take you completely through the process, holding your hands, making sure every question's answered.
Definitely. That's how it should be because, again, you don't know what you don't know. And for example, one thing that's super important is using the right legal documents, making sure that you see the disclosures before you make an offer.
These things have got where people do online shopping. You can buy a car, have it delivered to your house, and do it all online. A lot of people, there's a lot of online real estate.
There is.
There's a lot of online real estate. My question to you is, and I hate to ask it, is when I have this, why do I need you?
Well, they kind of work together, actually, because a really good buyer is an educated buyer. So if they've been looking online and they're looking for what they might want, they already are partway there. But what they really can't do on their own, and what a realtor can help them with, is they can provide objective information that they might not know what's in the community right next door. They can make sure that they're avoiding common pitfalls during the process. And another thing which is often overlooked if they're not working with an agent are timelines. And there are some timelines in a standard contract that if we miss those, we're out of contract. And you don't want that to happen. So an agent should cover all those things.
I want to switch topics real quickly. We got a few minutes. But there are people out there who probably listening or viewing this show today that they're to the point they're for whatever reason, they want to move, they want to sell their home, and they don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. First off, how easy is it to list their home through RE/MAX Premier Realty?
It's very easy. The way it would look is we would contact the agent. The agent would come to their home, take a look at their home, and they would give them advice on what can we do to make sure we get the highest price possible in the shortest period of time, and then also give information how we're going to market it. Then you sign a listing agreement, and immediately the agent starts the marketing process. And then once we get offers, then they negotiate the offers. They take it all the way to closing.
Do you recommend the homeowner is there when you bring clients by to look at the house?
Definitely not. We've had some situations more in senior communities where because of physical disabilities, they need to be there, and that's totally understandable. But if it can be avoided at all, definitely avoid it, because what happens is the buyer comes in and they're trying to imagine themselves in a home when the current homeowner's there. They can't take ownership, and they also won't feel free to look in cupboards and closets, see the size of the different rooms, so they're going to leave really quickly and likely not make an offer.
And you can help people buy and sell homes that are not here, maybe they're out of state.
Yes, we sure can. Yes.
And real quick, how do you correctly price a home?
Oh, how do you it's both. I always thought of it as a science and an art because it really depends. You can take a home that's in Leesburg, go a mile further in Leesburg, and it's going to be a totally different picture. So the most important thing is look at the recent solds, or what we call the comps. Continue to look at those throughout the life of the listing, and then adjust for any improvements or deficiencies if there's something that the home needs to have repaired.
Well, Mickey Morrison from RE/MAX Premier Realty, thank you for being our guest. One more time, if someone wanted to talk to you, what's a good number they can call you at?
They can reach us at 352-735-4060.
And please stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to talk to Dan Tatro about commercial real estate here in Lake and Sumter County. And he's going to tell us what's going on. There's a lot of moving parts in that. See you in a minute.
A
single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Welcome back to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Building Supply. I'm your host, Don Magruder, and you're listening to Real Country Radio, 790 AM WLBE, and we're still in beautiful Leesburg, Florida. I'd also like to welcome our viewers once again who's watching us on Lake-Sumter Television. That's LSTV, courtesy of Red Apples Media. In our next segment, we're switching to commercial real estate, and we have a true expert. This guy's wired up more than a Christmas tree when it comes to commercial real estate here in Lake and Sumter County, and we're so happy to have him. Dan Tatro is with Grizzard Commercial Real Estate, and he knows everything I think that's going on in commercial real estate. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dan Tatro. Dan, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Don. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm so happy you're here. Dan, can you take a few minutes and tell us about yourself and Grizzard Commercial Real Estate?
Yeah, I grew up in Leesburg, other than going to college, and actually went to law school too, so have a little bit different background for commercial real estate in our area. Been with Grizzard about 10 years now, and they are a division of ERA Grizzard, which has been around Lake County for about 50 years at this point.
Now, where do you handle commercial real estate properties? What's your geographic scope?
We do Lake, Sumter, Marion, and actually we even go as far as Orlando, and we've got some stuff south of Orlando at this point.
Now, if someone heard anything on today's show they'd like to talk to you about, what's a good way to contact you?
Well, the best way for me is email or text or even call. My email is dan@dltcommercial.com. My phone number that you can text me on or call me on anytime is 352-408-2282. And the main office number, if anybody wants to get a hold of me that way, would be 352-787-6966, and just ask for Dan Tatro.
And where's your office located, Dan?
9738 U.S. Highway 441, Leesburg, Florida.
When you say commercial real estate, that encompasses a lot. What type of commercial real estate properties do you represent?
Well, we do in Lake and Sumter especially. You know, we're kind of the jack of all trades. We don't specialize in one or the other. We generally do a little bit of everything. And the 5 major sectors of commercial real estate are multifamily, industrial, office, retail, and land. So we do all of the above.
Little doubt, Dan, you truly are one of the most wired up people in commercial real estate, and it seems to be busy now. A lot of buildings are coming up, but in certain areas, the older buildings seem to be sitting a little bit. How would you describe the current commercial real estate market?
I think it's a very good market. It's continued to stay steady. I think there are some factors that might slow it down a little bit coming up, but I don't think that's going to be anything significant. From an older building standpoint, I think the number one segment that we're seeing right now is development. Development seems to be very strong, and we're seeing a lot of people come in and look at older buildings and potentially tearing them down and redeveloping the sites based on locations.
Isn't one of the struggles you have in older properties because of Florida's new codes and stuff, hurricane codes? If you buy an old building or old property, a lot of times there's a lot of remodeling and upgrade costs.
There are numerous factors included in that. One of the biggest factors is if a building sits more than 6 months vacant, the governing municipality has the ability to trigger all kinds of upgrades to the building, which in many cases might make it cost prohibitive to just tearing it down and rebuilding.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing you say boom or bust in the commercial real estate market.
I don't think it's boom or bust. I think it's just kind of leveled out at this point.
Okay. So for the most part, 2018's been a good year.
Been a good year.
What about 2019?
I think 2019 will continue to be a good year. Again, interest rates are going to be a significant factor on sales. Building costs are going to be a significant factor as far as development goes, which seems to be the hottest trend right now.
A lot of people are worried about the retail industry. especially after the Christmas holidays. Are you concerned there will be a lot of real estate retail vacancies after the holidays?
The higher end retailers are where the issues are. I think a lot of people are not seeing that the what I would call the discount retailers are where they're very steady. If you look at their numbers, without citing specific examples, a lot of the discount retailers' numbers are very strong across the board. Their earnings have been very strong, so they're not going anywhere anytime soon. It's the higher end retailers who are paying what I would describe as extremely high rent and extremely high rent districts where you're going to see the vacancies.
I've also noticed a lot of restaurants here recently shutter, and I know the restaurant business is different. Does your group see any movement in the restaurant industry?
We don't see a whole lot of movement in the restaurant industry. The restaurant industry is traditionally a very difficult space to get a tenant in for a long period of time. We do see a lot of movement back and forth with various tenants in them. I will say, from a leasing standpoint, if you ever have a restaurant space available, it leases as fast as anything. So there's never very much vacancy, as far as I'm concerned, in that department.
But it's just hard to keep them.
It's hard to keep them continuing.
Continuing release.
Yes, sir.
Now, you would describe yourself as a commercial real estate person, correct?
That's all I do.
Okay, you don't do any residential?
No.
No, okay. Yeah. Maybe occasional.
Yes, sir.
I guess my question is, when someone's looking at realtors, how important is it to choose someone who has a complete commercial real estate background, and what are the different qualifications for being a commercial real estate?
Well, commercial real estate is, in my opinion, far more complicated. There are varying factors. Let's start with getting the property listed and getting it marketed. You have a much greater, how do I say this? The marketing is on a far more complicated level. It goes a lot further. You're not just marketing in one spot. You're not just using MLS. You have many sites that you need to get your commercial properties out in. You also want to do an offering memorandum if you have a significant property to sell, especially if it's income producing, even if it's a large plot of land. You want to identify all the various uses for the property. You want to identify what the numbers are on the property if it's an income producing property. You want to identify the expenses. That's what the offering memorandums do. It takes quite a bit of time to get a commercial property on the market properly in comparison to a home, which still is very difficult, but nowhere near as labor intensive as getting a commercial property out there.
One of the big challenges in commercial property, and you tell me, and maybe you can go through the various types, is the zoning. It's not like, and correct me if I'm wrong, in residential you have residential, but then you have multifamily, and then you have mobile home. But essentially, I know this is probably, the folks in residential would probably be a little irate with me for saying, it's basically 3 different zonings.
You have,
but in commercial, it's a litany of zoning.
There are a litany of zonings. Even if you got a multifamily zoning, you could have 12 units per acre, you could have 18 units per acre, you could have 6 units per acre. So even when you get into the sub-zoning classifications of the actual zoning, it becomes very complicated. So one of the first things we always tell clients is we want to check the zoning. We want to know what the future land use is too. A lot of people don't know what future land use means. Future land use is the overlay with the state that actually controls the zoning.
And it's part of the comprehensive land plan that Lake County and Sumter County and everyone has. In other words, that doesn't allow you to put a shopping mall in the middle of the residential area.
That is correct. And you have to overlay the future land use with the current zoning. Now, a lot of people don't understand either. It is possible to change the comprehensive plan with a large-scale comp plan amendment or even a small-scale comp plan amendment. It takes a lot of time. It just does cost, and it's going to vary on the area, but it is possible.
You're listening to Around the House. Our special guest is Dan Tatro. He's a commercial real estate expert with Grizzard Commercial Real Estate, and we're talking about commercial real estate this year and what he's forecasting in the future. And Dan, one thing you mentioned when you introduced yourself, you went to law school and you became a lawyer.
Yes, sir.
I don't know many commercial real estate people who are lawyers. How does that give you an advantage? Because commercial real estate is very complicated, especially in zoning and all these other issues. How does that give you an advantage over other people?
The single greatest thing it's helped me with is land use.
How so?
Land use, title questions, title problems, just understanding them. We run into a lot of title issues anymore with commercial real estate. They're not always easy to solve. I think having an understanding on those is helpful.
Okay. Can you go a little bit deeper in that when you say title stuff? A lot, there's a difference between title and deed, correct?
Yes, sir.
Explain the difference between a title and the deed and why, the title insurance is important and what's all going on with
the title insurance effectively insures the title to your property. And there are exceptions on a title policy, which, all folks on a commercial deal need to look at carefully. We always recommend they have an attorney look at them also. Extremely smart to do that. There may be things on there. There may be a drainage easement, as an example of a problem that I've run into before, running right through the middle of a building. You don't want that. That is a title problem that might preclude your insurance claim if you ever had one. You would want to get that addressed if you could.
How much are flood zones playing into commercial real estate? It's an emerging issue with residential, but it seems that the new FEMA maps and flood zones and that are becoming a bigger issue. Are you finding that?
Big issue. FEMA moved the maps in 2012. As a result of moving the maps, we've actually run into situations where not only do properties have properties been moved into a flood zone, they've actually been moved into regulatory waterways, which is an even bigger problem.
Oh, wow.
Very big problem. And we've run into it 2 or 3 times in the last year now.
Are you concerned with the hurricanes that we've had the last year or two? And the flooding, for example, we've seen flooding that we haven't seen before. Are you concerned that this will get worse?
We're always concerned about hurricanes in Florida. We're always concerned about the damage they can cause. To this point in my career, we have not seen a tremendous amount of damage on the commercial side. But as they continue, it's always a concern.
Okay. You do commercial real estate. The guest prior did residential. We talked about this big difference. What are some of the biggest differences in the selling process between someone who's selling residential and commercial? Because, you have a lot of people who've never been in business who bought and sold houses. They go to the commercial, they're going to buy a little commercial building or commercial real estate. It's all kind of differences. Can you give some differences so that people are prepared?
Well, in a lot of cases on the commercial side, you need to know your numbers. You're looking at it from an investment perspective in a lot of cases if you're a buyer. If you're a seller, you're looking at it to get the most you can. So if you have an income producing property, as an example, on the seller side, you're going to want to maximize your value with the leases. People underestimate leases. You want to have leases for all your tenants. Those leases are valuable. You want to have those leases for, as long of a period as you can get. That time period is valuable. You want to have the rents, in as good of a position as you can. If you can get triple net, which means a tenant's paying their prorated share of taxes, insurance, and common area maintenance, that's even more valuable. So all those factors add in on the seller side to get the maximum value that you can get. On the buyer side, as an example, on an income producing property, you want to make sure you understand those numbers. You want to make sure you understand where the increases are on an annual basis. You want to make sure you review those leases carefully. You want to make sure there's nothing in those leases that could potentially lose you a tenant that you don't know about. You want to make sure everything is there that you need to know about. A lot of people don't check everything, and this is where a good commercial agent comes in and they can help you and point you in the right direction.
Isn't one of the biggest mistakes in real estate, and I'm going to say this about commercial and residential, people don't read the contracts?
Very, very, very big mistake. And I just gave an example. It's not even the contract, it's the leases. If you're going to buy a property with 8 tenants, you need to read all those leases.
Wow, because triple net could have more on you than the other.
In every lease, even in a eight tenant complex, every lease may be different.
This segment of Around the House is brought to you by the Romac Custom Door and Millwork Shop. Whether you need to match molding at an historic home or create a new pattern for a commercial project, the Romac Custom Door Millwork Shop can create the molding and doors you need. Custom is not a problem for those guys. For more information, go by the shop at 700 East Main Street in Leesburg or give them a call at 352-787-4545. If it's hard to find, if it's hard to match, if it's hard to fit, call the Romac Custom Door and Millwork Shop. Dan Tatro of Gazar Commercial Realty, I'm going to ask you the biggest question of the day. What's hot in commercial real estate around here? In other words, if you had more of these type of properties, you could sell them hand over fist.
Income producing properties with a cap rate above 8%.
All right, there's a lot of people listening to this. You're going to have to break all that down.
Okay, cap rates are your rate of return on income producing properties. So an 8% cap rate would mean you get an 8% return on annually. What we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years is cap rates were over 10% 4 years ago on most properties that we're selling.
Yeah.
As the cap rates have lowered, the prices have gone up for the sellers. We're seeing traditionally right now cap rates around 7% on multi-tenant, non-national tenant facilities. That's gotten pretty low. 8% cap rates, anything 8 and above, with the proper reserves factored in, with a proper vacancy rate factored in, those are really strong properties, which we are not seeing very many of at this point.
Is there a shortage of commercial properties? Our previous guest said there's a shortage of affordable homes. Is there a specific shortage of type of commercial property?
There is definitely a shortage of multifamily properties for sale at this point. If a multifamily project goes up for sale, it usually has multiple offers within a week or two.
Really? Now, how big a multifamily project?
Anywhere between 50 and 100 plus units.
Really?
That they go very fast in today's market. Usually I would say within 2 weeks, they have multiple offers and they go quickly.
Is some of this a reflection that the housing market has lost its affordability and the population continues to grow and people have to live somewhere?
Clearly that is a factor. Clearly the rents, even though the rents have gone up on some of these multifamily projects, but they're more reasonable than what people can afford housing-wise.
Wow. So multifamily projects are big these days. What about dirt?
Dirt is one of the strongest sectors we're seeing. It's really evolved in the last...
Let me explain something. Dirt is land.
Land, yes.
Yeah.
Dirt has evolved in the last 24 months to what I would describe as the best level we've seen since pre-downturn in 2007.
All right, I'm going to ask you a loaded question. I tend to agree with you. Dirt prices, land prices have gone up. But we're also seeing some on the horizons, a few storm clouds. And a lot of people will have a piece of dirt, a piece of land, and they want to hit it right at the top. And they wind up hitting it right at the bottom. If you own a good piece of commercial land right now, would you be more inclined to sell it or hold based on what you're seeing with 2019
Easy,
and 20?
very easy answer for me. We're telling a lot of clients this. We advise them to move the dirt now unless you want to miss this cycle. If you miss this cycle, you could end up holding it for a number of years again.
So it's your opinion we're at the end of this real estate cycle. Not saying that Armageddon's going to hit.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying it's going to fall off a cliff. What I think is going to happen is it's going to flatten out, maybe dip some, but I think we're pretty close to the peak, especially for dirt at this point.
And if anything, you're just going to see headwinds as far as pricing. Pricing should go down.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of that has to do with interest rates. And how big is the interest rate equation on commercial projects?
Interest rate is a very big equation because what's happening is, for those, as an example, that want to, let's say you want to sell a piece of dirt, and what's happening with dirt now is you have developers coming in, they want to tie it up because most developers want to close when they have their permits. So they buy the dirt with the intent ahead of time of knowing what they're going to do with it, which is generally the only way you're going to get financed on that dirt anymore. Speculative dirt and financing don't go together.
I was going to ask that question. If you had a wallet full of money, would investing in land be a good bet?
That's a tricky, if you wanted to pay cash for it and you got it in the right spot, potentially. But if you think you're going to finance it in any way, shape, or form, no.
So investing in dirt is not a good deal.
Not unless you have a specific use for it. But a lot of the developers, again, they want to tie the land up until they get their permits. So from a contractual standpoint, another good reason to have a good commercial realtor is you're going to want to look at that contract in conjunction with their attorney, and you're going to want to lay out some parameters over the time period where the seller, for instance, gets his maximum dollar, but also if he ties the land up for 12 months, he gets some non-refundable money over the course of that time. So if they backed out of the deal 11 months into it, at least you've gotten something out of it.
Dan Tatro, you've so far given us a lot of stuff we've got to chew and talk about. I'm sure there's going to be questions. If someone has a question, what's a good number they can reach you at, Dan?
352-408-2282.
Once again, you're listening to Don McGruder with Around the House. Our special guest is Dan Tatro. He's with Grisar Commercial Real Estate, and we're talking about commercial real estate market here in Lake and Sumter, and I guess all of Central Florida because you guys covered it. You know, you guys have many areas in Lake and Sumter County. Are some outperforming others in commercial real estate?
Yeah, the Villages obviously is very strong. In and around the Villages, all the submarkets, anything around there does very well. The Claremont area is extremely strong. We're seeing a lot of movement in the Mount Dora, where the new Mount Dora area, where the new parkway is coming in. You know, I think there's a tremendous need from a sector standpoint of small bay industrial all over Lake County and Sumter County, around the Villages, around Mount Dora, even in the Leesburg, Claremont areas. That seems to be a sector that really needs some help.
So essentially, if you've got a good property and you want to sell it, now it's a good time to do it.
Very good time.
Saw a lot of headwinds in 2018 with construction. Headwinds with the tariffs and increased building material prices went off the charts in the summer. Labor shortages have increased labor shortages. It seems like every government entity has raised building fees, impact fees, and other regulations. What has all this toxic mixture in building done to the commercial real estate values and market? And do you think there's a chance that 2018 may have slowed the market down where it shouldn't have?
I don't think 2018 slowed the market down at this point. Do I think the combination of the economy, the rising interest rates, the building supplies going up are going to slow the market down? Yes. I think 2019, I think it will be pretty good. I hope it's as good as 2018. I think when we hit 2020, I think we could see some slowing down at that point.
A lot of local government officials worry about, you know, commercial real estate and what you guys do more than anything because it equals jobs. That's one thing about what you do. Every time you sell a property, every time someone puts up a new warehouse, every time someone builds something, there's additional jobs for Lake and Sumter County. In 2019, do you see there's any appetite for a change in some of the government entities and how they're approaching this, because there may be a slowdown on the horizon? Or are you?
What we've seen with all of the government entities, especially in Lake County and Sumter County, is they're all very aggressive and I think pretty good to work with at this point. They want jobs, they want development, they want to work with folks to get deals done.
Okay, the headwinds that people are talking about in commercial real estate and other real estate is interest rates, the actual markets, regulations in the economy. What troubles you the most?
Interest rates.
Interest rates?
Interest rates going up are going to affect pricing. As an example, you know, as interest rates go up, it means it's a bigger monthly payment for whoever buys the property, which is going to reduce the price for sellers ultimately.
Okay. When you think about 2019, if you were sitting here a year from now, how would you describe 2019? What's your forecast for 2019?
I think 2019 is going to stay on par with 2018. I don't think it's going to start slowing down. What I'm seeing is around, again, early 2020, I think we'll start seeing a slowdown.
Do you think people would be advised to get on or off the fence, whether they're buying or selling? And I know a realtor always wants to sell, but honestly, Do you think first off, you don't close a commercial real estate deal in 1 month. It's sometimes a 6 month process.
Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 12 months. We have deals under contract as long as 18 to 24 months out at this point.
Is it time for people to get off the fence now?
Yes. Easy answer. People need to get off the fence if they want to, especially if they want to sell. I mean, we're telling people now is the best time to sell if you want to.
A lot of people are doing real estate deals on the internet. You know, you can go to Google, you can Google commercial deals, and they'll show you this. I asked this question before of someone else. Why should someone hire Dan Tatro, commercial real estate expert, and just not use this thing because you know you can buy everything through this thing? Well,
I think if you're a good commercial real estate agent, based on what kind of property you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, you know, I like to tell people, you're a part commercial agent, you're part engineer sometimes, you're part attorney sometimes, you're part accountant sometimes. There's so many different things that you need to be aware of, or put your person in touch with the right person from a due diligence standpoint to investigate. You know, you just need to make sure you understand all of those different concepts. For instance, if somebody goes out and they're going to sell a property and they're going to have a $3 million gain on what they were, first thing you need to do is tell them to get with their accountant to discuss the capital gain, because they don't want to get hit with a large tax number that they didn't even think about.
All right. If someone wanted to hire you, say they're listening to the show or see the show and they've got a commercial real estate property they want to sell, or maybe they want to buy one, what's the process?
Well, you can drive around Lake County and see my sign on every block and just call my number.
And what's that number?
352-408-2282.
But my question, what type of contracts and what's the paperwork process, and how hard is it to hire Dan Tatro?
What we do is we usually like to go see the property, get an appointment set up to go see the property first. I usually like to go in and see the property without even looking at anything, so I don't have any predeterminations about it. Sometimes if you predetermine by looking at the online at the property and stuff, you're going in with a certain mindset and you get there and it's not quite the same. So we like to set it up, we like to go view the property, then we like to go back, we like to do our own research. I mean, it could vary based on the size of the property, among other things. If it's an income producing property, we're going to ask to see some numbers so we can determine a cap rate, because that cap rate's going to drive the price ultimately, in conjunction with the cost per square foot. So go see the property first with the potential seller, do a little research, get back to the seller at that point with a small range of what we think the price should be, let the seller decide which one they want to go with, and then we do a listing agreement. We usually like to do listing agreements for a year because it takes commercial properties a little bit longer to get on the market and get them marketed in all the locations that they need to be. Then the harder parts start after that. Then you need to get your marketing package done. You need to get your marketing package out to folks. Then the negotiating process starts to do a contract. Negotiating the initial contract sometimes can be very complicated on a commercial deal, especially a land development deal.
Right.
Then you get into due diligence once the contract is done, and once due diligence is another very complicated process, because that's where you have to guide your client in many directions to make sure they understand exactly what they're buying.
For a residential piece of property, those agents recommend you have a pre-qualification letter before you start looking. What do you recommend for commercial buyers?
We generally take that on a case-by-case basis. Luckily, we've been doing this a long time, so a lot of the folks we deal with are developers and or folks who we know, and you know where they stand. If we do not know someone, we do ask for a pre-qualification letter in many cases, so that is always a good thing, never a bad thing.
Do you recommend, when there's uncertainty on pricing, that the buyer go ahead and have a real appraisal done?
In some cases, we look at the property and we even have a hard time determining a price based on a broker's opinion of value. So we do recommend appraisals more often than not if we can't determine a price that the buyer can live with.
Well, Dan Tatro, thank you for being our guest today. One more time, if someone wants to ask you questions about today's show, what's a good number they can call you at?
352-408-2282.
And I'd like to thank you for watching Around the House and listening today. Be sure to catch Around the House on AM 790 every Monday from noon until 1 p.m. Catch Around the House on there nightly on LSTV. And be sure to catch Around the House, the column, Wednesdays in the South Lake Press and Saturdays in the Daily Commercial. Until next time, we will see you around the house.
You're watching LSTV, Lake-Sumter Television.
Previously on Ultimate Choice, the cast lives out a breathtaking adventure from 14,000 feet.
When Jeremiah jumped out of the plane, he was number 1, I was number 3. I started screaming when he jumped out. No way am I doing that!
That was the sweetest thing I've ever done in my life.
For those who think that they can't experience thrills and stuff like that without like doing drugs or having sex, before marriage or whatever, something's wrong with their mind, because there's so many things out there where you could do where it's just banging, dude.
In conversation, the group dives in to talk about what young people will do for a rush and the consequences of those endeavors.
Me and my friends, we used to have our fun by just kind of messing with people. I was really just so caught up in the moment. I didn't want to think about what type of problems it was going to be causing.
I looked for love through sex, I guess, and so, and it hurts. I have to say, no, you don't need all that to be happy. And I just have to be happy with myself.
It's time to embark on the journey of a lifetime. This is Ultimate Choice.
We're all very diverse.
Yeah, they have their own issues. And
what we've experienced has been our own different things, but we melt together real well.
Yeah.
We all talk like, that first time we're having deep conversations, everyone's just throwing it out like, whatever, here it is, this is me.
It's nice to know there's other people out there, because I'm always just trying to be real with people, and I feel like it's hard.
Yeah, and it's tough to do, because sometimes people don't want to hear that.
When you're in a group of people who all want to be real, it's cool. I wonder what's going to happen next. I'm scared.
Last night was one of a kind. Last night was miserable. I mean, to put it gently.
All right, guys, so we've been driving for half the night. It's the middle of the night. It's raining outside, and, I figure it's a pretty good time to go camping.
My chin at the floor.
I'm thinking this is just getting better and better. Come off a long bus ride, everyone's begging for a bed. Next thing you know, you're camping in the woods and it's pouring down rain.
We're gonna have our own version of Club Med right out here in the woods, in the rain, in the mud, and grab a few essential things to get us through the night. You will have nothing but a sleeping bag and a tent. So don't be prepared for a hot shower or brushing your teeth or anything fun like that. We just got to grab what we need and get on down there.
It's pouring down rain. We walked forever down this muddy dirt road. It was pouring down rain, and I'm walking down. I have my pillow in one hand, which is getting soaked, my sleeping bag in the other, and I'm walking with a pout on my face. And We walked for it felt probably like 3 miles. Like, it was miserable. I kept saying that I can't wait to vent tomorrow. I can't wait to vent tomorrow. Like, I hate this. I want to go home.
How's it going, man? I'm Sean. Good. What's your name? Chris. Chris, good to meet you, Chris. Gabe. Gabe. Awesome. Good to meet you, Gabe.
They had like our tents already set up for us, and a campfire going and food going, but I'm just not really a camping girl. Oh my God.
Oh man, you know, I used to go camping back in the day, you know what I'm saying? This is our nature.
We do have stuff for s'mores if you guys are interested.
Sweet. I told you.
You have to find your own stick.
All right, you guys, listen, it's been a long day. Had a great adventure, but it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and our adventure continues very, very early tomorrow.
At the end of the night, even after the cameras left, even after everybody was gone, man, me and Tish, we just sat, just looked at the fire, and I was just like, man, this is just lovely right here.
The rain was nice, you know, helped you sleep better, but you know, a little uncomfortable. Wet. My sleeping bag was soaked. So it's not fun.
That was challenging. You know, African American people do not tend to camp.
The worst thing, you just feel like something crawled up your butt or something. To have the opportunity to jump out of a plane, I'll sleep on the ground for a night.
Wonder what the day holds, man.
I know. Oh my!
I know. I'm wondering myself.
We were just sitting in front of the fire last night, just like noticing the goodness of God, and it's like no words can describe just like all the thoughts that are going through your mind. You're just enjoying the life that God gave you. It's just beautiful.
Good morning. Top of the morning to you.
This morning waking up, of course it was early, but it was very like, oh yeah, I forgot I was sleeping in a tent in the rain. I thought I was going to wake up in a palace. Like,
What'd you say? You're looking at it.
You bet.
When I was younger, my dream was to be a cowboy. I always loved that. I first found out about Lake-Sumter's program. I came here for dual enrollment. I was in a math class, and we got to looking about careers. And we saw this. I knew I liked to work outside, and I'm not real good behind a desk. I get too bored too fast. So I thought I'd try it out and see how I like it. The Lake-Sumter line worker program gives you a better feel of what the line worker life is like, see if it's for you, see if you can do it. A line worker's job entails building and maintaining power lines, also installing and repairing transformers. When there's a storm, they repair the lines, but making sure your power is on. The ability to find a job for a line worker would be quite easy. Once you have the education and the CDL, there are opportunities out there that many people, many utilities, they're hiring and they're looking for good people willing to work. The ratio of how much I've spent on this college versus how much I've learned and how much I've gotten out is exponential, and it's far cheaper than other schools that I've heard of. It opens the door to something completely new and very high paying as well. When I look back and I see myself wanting to be a cowboy, I look at today's, obviously, this is the modern cowboy to me, but only you're working with electricity instead of cows.
Welcome to Long Creek.
Oh, good morning. Thank you.
Guys, my name's Lee. Nice to meet you. All right. Did you guys stay dry last night?
Not really.
Not really? So you got to see the river, right?
Yeah.
Right on. Well, that rain that came in last night That's going to give us a good ride today. By the way, how many of you guys have ever been whitewater rafting or kayaking or anything like that?
First thing I thought when they told us what we were doing, when we were going to go kayaking, I was thinking Jessica does not do things like that. I'm not a wilderness girl.
I kind of looked around and it was still raining and it was kind of gray out, and I just thought, I'm going to be freezing. Like, this is going to be even more miserable.
Whitewater rafting is not a fashion sport, all right? We all look equally goofy in this stuff. Let's blow this popsicle stand and go on down to the river. This is our craft today. Craft of choice is what you'll be going down the river in. Very stable craft and very maneuverable craft compared to the rafts that the rest of us are going to be in. These are like little sports cars. Pretty cool. Let's talk about falling out. There's a good possibility that can happen today, all right? There's a good possibility this whole thing could flip upside down. The main thing you want to do is not to use your first instinct to stand up. You don't want to do that in moving current. We're going to be running mainly Class 2 and Class 3 whitewater on a scale of 1 to 6. Bull Sluice, the large rapid, which we'll actually look at before we even do it, is a Class 4 rapid on a scale of 1 to 6.
Today the games begin. It's an individual competition. You're judged on 2 things. 1, your efficiency in getting down the river. 2, your ability to maneuver. Tied all along the river, there's going to be 3 different colored bandanas. Blue bandanas are worth 50 points. Maroon bandanas are worth 25. Yellow are worth 10. You also get points depending on how efficiently you get down the river. The first person down gets 150, second 125, third 110, everybody down progressively, yes?
When there's something on the line, now I really just lose the fear factor and I'm just like, you know, I just got to get this done.
Oh, it's time to win.
Okay, ready? Go!
There's almost a little more nerve-wracking than the skydiving because the skydiving, you don't have to avoid anything. You're just falling.
This was actually like so much scarier to me than skydiving like was yesterday. I was like, I have no control over what I'm doing.
And I was just like, what? I have the worst luck. Like, I get stuck on every single rock that comes on my path. And so I'm last, of course. It was scared.
Yeah, you'll be fine. It's very shallow here. Get back in the boat.
I was genuinely scared throughout it. It was kind of this like, oh my gosh, I'm really not in control now.
We were going at it. It was just flag after flag. It was awesome.
Just before I came here, when I tell some of my friends, I was like, the toughest competition I'm going to have here is going to be this girl named Tish.
A lot of people had missed some, you know what I mean? Everybody was in a frantic just trying to look and looking too hard and they missed. So I was kind of cruising in the back for a while and everything that they missed, I was just picking up and somehow worked my way up to the lead and snatched a couple and I mean, it was fun.
We're looking at it, we're like, we are definitely gonna die.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
About an hour into kayaking, they pull us over to the side and they're like, we want you to look at this level 4 rapid.
But we're going to show you Bull Sluice, and I am just dreading seeing this thing.
We're looking at it, we're like, we are definitely going to die. It was amazing.
For a little bit, I was like, I'm not doing it. I was like, there's no way at all that you expect me to go down there. Oh my gosh, I don't want to see this. Just push me down. I'm going to close my eyes.
And everyone else was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I was like, well, I can't be the only wuss that's not going to do it. So I was like, I have to, I guess.
I was first going in, and I was like, I got to stay up because if you fell out of your boat, you had to go all the way to the back. And I had worked so hard to be in the front.
I went down. Everybody said I did it perfect, but still ended up in the water guzzling.
I remember like diving pretty much straight down into the water, and then the next thing I know, like I pop up and roll over, and I was deep underwater. I mean, it was actually kind of scary for me, and I'm used to being in the water and stuff like that. It was actually a little bit of a panic situation for me because I couldn't touch the bottom and I couldn't pull myself to the surface, and a little bit nervous there. So.
The instant I heard you fall, you go to the back of the line, like, can't fall.
I was a little nervous, but I thought I had it under control, and then I think I went the wrong way and I got stuck between two rocks. I was scared that I was going to go off backwards because I felt like I was scooting and doing a little boot scoot, and then I thought I was going to go right off backwards and flip backwards. Lee came and dived in and came over to me, and he was like, he kind of pretty much just prepared me that there was no hope. I got scared at first because I was stuck under for like a little while, and I don't know, I couldn't breathe very well. I swallowed tons of water, so I got a little scared. I was like, I need to come up now.
I'm not falling out that boat. My legs have flipped up, but I had to hold on to that boat, man. I was determined. I was coming in the top 3. Yeah. And it turned out I ended up being last place. I turned out getting flipped out the thing, hit my side, almost cried. I took it like a man. It hurt me here, but it hurt me here. So it hurt my pride too.
I think I was just kind of lucky. So, but it was incredible. Afterwards, you look back and you're just like, I'm so glad that I actually did it. I was like under the waves, and I didn't know if I was gonna like come up and breathe ever. I was like, oh my gosh, just like tumbling through the water. Then I came up and started crying, but then it was fun.
After Bull Sluice, there was one final leg of the race, which was kind of the sprint to the finish, and they lined us up in order of who didn't fall when we went through the Class 4 Rapid at Bull Sluice.
I think the worst part about the whole river trip was when we get to the end, I see one of our people, and I'm like, okay, that's the end, sweet. And I'm about to pass Donovan, and I'm like, all right, I'm in second place now. And Jeremiah goes the wrong way.
I almost lost because I got confused because I asked the rafters where I was going. They pointed in one direction, so I went there, and they're like, no, you got to go the other way.
I'm like, this is ridiculous.
So, I look around and people are gaining on me. And so I just, it was just using everything I had because, your arms are tired, you're a little worn out from the adrenaline rush of running through those, the tough rapid there, and it was just giving everything you got and going all out and, just giving it whatever's left in the tank.
Jeremiah ends up beating me, Donovan ends up beating me, and I come in third. It sucks because I worked really hard. But, sometimes that's how it comes out as long as I gave it my all.
Everybody did a great job in that challenge, and one of the things I noticed, a lot of you guys talked about, we all experienced it, we were trying to be in control, but a lot of times it was like we were out of control, we had no control. And in our society today, there's a lot of things like that. There's a lot of things in our culture that are just out of control. Can you guys think of some examples of how our culture is out of control?
Yeah, I think there's a real problem like racing towards being sexually immoral. It's like you look back at you know, Britney Spears and stuff when she first came out, and people were going on about how, you know, controversial that was, and now it's, you know, it's like something you put on Disney, you know.
One area that I personally think is really out of control that some of you girls might comment on is the pressure for this like perfect image, perfect body, perfect model life, and it's just going crazy.
Well, I know with me, like I've suffered with an eating disorder before, and just been obsessed with like dieting almost my entire life, and it is hard because you see all those like stick girls on TV, and they always are the ones that like get the cutest boys. It's like you're on an edge and you can tip one way or the other, and it's like an addiction. You almost feel like if you have too much in you, then it has to come out somehow, because you just feel so guilty about letting it sit in your stomach and like digesting it, because you just think it's going to turn into like fat and you're just going to blow up into just like 400-pound woman. You're angry at yourself for doing this for yourself, but then again, it's like you're doing it because you're angry that you don't look the way that other people do. And so it's almost like you're trapped within this war, like within yourself. I wish people understood like how serious it is, almost like, and how like mentally like torturous it is.
How have you gotten over that? How have you dealt with that?
I got to a point where I just like almost like hit bottom, because my dentist told me I had like almost worn off all the enamel on my teeth, and so I've been having like, I have tons of cavities that I had to have filled, and then crowns and stuff. I had started like blacking out in my bathroom, and then my nose started bleeding, and so I started shaking, and it was almost like I had gotten to the point where like I had hit rock bottom. And I think that's one of the reasons like why my faith was so important like in getting over it, because those nights when I was like, I cannot do this on myself, I would just be like, please Lord, like take this burden away from me, and please help me like not to feel this way anymore. You have to reteach yourself how to think about yourself and how to feel about yourself, which is something that can take so long to do. The way that you look is not important, but actually what deep down inside of you is like what is really important.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is DJ. Yo, you want to find out more about myself and the rest of the cast of Ultimate Choice? Well, here's how you do it. Go to uccarolina.com. It's our poppin' website that'll give you the inside scoop about everything about UC Carolina. Yo, go check it out right now. What are you waiting for?
I may look like all the other dogs, but I was born for a purpose. To one day be your companion, your eyes to see the world. I'll be your courage, your friend. With me, you'll find new freedom and hope for a better future. A dog I'm not. I'm a Southeastern guide dog.
It was really scary to talk about it, but it was something that I was excited to get out, because it's something that I've been holding in, and it's such a painful part of my life that I'm ready to like release, because I'm done with it. And I think it's something that teenage girls and guys need to hear, like that other people go through it, and you can get through it, and you need to get help.
Next time on Ultimate Choice.
The event we're going to be doing today is right behind you. It's this 40-foot rock climbing wall, 4 stories high.
It was a mad challenge for me. It was much higher than any other climbing wall I'd ever done.
She just dominated the wall. She dominated everybody.
I just wanted to give up. I was just like, how could I fail this badly?
Are there some areas in your lives that you've experienced failure?
I personally, you know what I'm saying, I struggle with drinking. It's an addiction, hard to let go.
Tan's blonde beauty's oh so remarkable, flipping with it, hitting just like she's smacking a volleyball. Take your pace stand, Jason with lifeguard tans. Your face stand, a race man that can catch you a case and stay focused. As life's diversity approaches, Ponavitra Alicia helps us cope without roaches. So we floated, so divine, enjoy our lives. So you just shut that dish, cause that miss so fine. With cocoa butter, don't stutter, hearts are flooded tonight. Jesse flicking into our heart, the dark side of the lie. It's alright, sit back and chill and watch me take fly. SOS Project, the DJ be so high, from the line, full of the lines of dust, killing your mind. Jeremiah discusses his game ball, it's so divine and so swing, bada bada, swing, bada bada.
Coming up in the December Year in Review episode of Hometown Health, we'll take a look at some of our favorite stories from 2018.
Are you having trouble dealing with dairy? We'll explain why you are in the majority, not the minority.
Plus, Dr. Nitza Alvarez of Tri-County Heart Institute explains the meaning of some of the medical terms you might encounter when talking to your healthcare provider about your heart.
So it's a week after Christmas and all through the house. There's so much to be done, but you're still on the couch. So start the new year off right by watching the Around the House Marathon with host Don Magruder.
Hello, Central Florida, and welcome to Around the House.
From mortgages to lighting, insurance to lawns, everything you need to know is all right here. So join us on Lake-Sumter Television to start off your new year.
Typically, yes, you do have the option to pay your loan off early. Most conventional loans, FHA insured loans, VA loans, USDA loans don't have any kind of a penalty for paying off early. Be careful though, there are some loan programs out there that will have prepayment penalties, which means in the early years of the loan, if you pay it off early, or if you prepay a substantial portion of the principal, you could be required to pay a penalty for doing so. Check your loan paperwork and make sure those loans, even if they do have a prepayment penalty, will go away over time. So in the first 3 or 4 years you may have a penalty, but after that typically there is no prepayment penalty. But if you go to a second home or investment property, generally those will carry some type of a prepayment penalty. Not the standard Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA type of loans, but these are the non-QM loans. These are the ones that don't qualify under the current guidelines.
I've been with the college now for 18 years. When I started as a student, I got a position here in athletics with Mike Matulia and Kathy Dawson, and they introduced me to the foundation, and I learned quickly that it was a family atmosphere here, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I took on the Alumni Association in 2010. And that's when I finished my AA degree, and I started working towards my 4-year degree at the college as well. And I finished that in 2016, and when I finished that degree, I moved up into the president's office as the executive assistant. So that's where I am currently. The 4-year degree here at Lake-Sumter is in organizational management. I encourage anyone to do that program because I learned a lot from that program. It can take you a lot of places. When I was notified about being the recipient of the award, I was proud. I was humbled. I was so happy that somebody saw something in me that maybe I didn't see in myself. So I felt like I won the lottery, if you want to know the truth. I was very proud.
We're here today because of a partnership. Jenkins graciously donated this vehicle and Sign Crafters donated the wrap. This vehicle will drive around our campus providing additional security, faster response to our services, and will also demonstrate and exemplify these partnerships we have with the Lake and Sumter community.
I was talking to Dr. Bird, and she said that there was a need for the security to have a car, and they didn't have one. We're trying to put funds together, and we felt that it was a way that we could help and contribute into that need. So here we are today giving a car away.
We have elected as the Jenkins Automotive Group to support education because we truly believe that education is the best way to protect our future for our immediate community.
The vehicle that Jenkins has provided is going to help us do that. It's going to give us a presence on all of our campuses, and it gives us that visual deterrent for criminals. In my opinion, we have the safest campuses around Central Florida. We pride ourselves on making sure that we don't have any incidents, that we take care of everything that occurs. And I believe our students have that sense of safety, that they know that they're taken care of at Lake-Sumter College.
In recent times, there's been some really ugly things that have happened out there, so we want to make sure that the students of Lake County are safe, and this is just one small way that we can contribute to that.
There's a need for kids to be able to go to school and feel safe. I don't think that there's any place more important that a child should be able to feel safe other than their home and their school.
We're at our heart of community college. We have the label State College, but everything we do is really focused on the Lake and Sumter community. So these partnerships are crucial, both in terms of what they can do for our students, but also how closely we're connected to our communities.
Watching LSTV, Lake-Sumter Television.
The following presentation is a real-time recording of a public meeting. In order to comply with public records, no editing of this meeting has taken place. On rare occasion, some content and language may be deemed inappropriate by viewers. Discretion is advised.
Because we broadcast our meetings live stream. Here we go. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners meeting, December 18th, 2018, and we will start this morning with an invocation given by Pastor John Blake of Good News Church, Leesburg, and thereafter remain standing and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
As they say in the South, morning, y'all. Good morning. Good to have you here. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your presence here today. And this time of year, we are especially aware of the gift of life. We thank you for the life that you've given to each of us. Help us to use it well. It is precious. We thank you for that. We thank you that we were born in this nation, the United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, a nation that is built upon the foundation of our Constitution of equality and justice for all. We thank you for that. We pray for our leaders today, our President, the Congress and the Senate, the judiciary, and lift them up to you. We pray for our men and women who serve overseas, who are in harm's way, and for those who protect and serve here in our streets. We thank you for them. We pray especially today for this commission, for these commissioners, for your guidance and your wisdom for them as they seek to make decisions for the common good, for the people of Lake County. And we pray your blessing upon them. We thank you for all those who are present here today. Pray for your blessing and your guidance upon all the proceedings that take place here today. And we pray, even in the name of the Christ, Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. And all God's people said, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first item on our agenda this morning is our minutes approval from our October 23rd, 2018 meeting. Do we have a motion, or do we need to make any changes?
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Commissioner, I had an agenda update for you.
I jumped ahead of you. Sorry about
that. Sorry. Since we first published the agenda, we added tab 31 as an addendum to the management and budget consent agenda. We'd ask that you can consider it under the consent agenda.
All right. So consent would have item 31 included. And item 31 is our closed session.
I'm sorry, when the agenda originally had 31 as the closed session, when we added the addendum of 31 to management and budget, the closed session became 32.
Okay. All right, got it. All right. Any other changes anyone needs to make?
No, but I'd like to just make a comment when we get to the consent agenda before we vote on tab 19.
Okay, and now we have citizen question and comment period. If we have anyone here that would like to address the board, we give a 3-minute period of time, and we need you to fill out a card and turn it into the clerk if you'd like to speak at this time in the meeting. We do have Alan Hartle, and we invite you to the podium.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and County Commissioners. I want to wish you a Merry, Happy Christmas from the town of Montverde, which I sit on council. I had an agenda this morning to discuss with you, and it's amazing how little words and songs can change your mind. I was coming through Asatula, and I heard the song, I'll Be Home for Christmas, and it changed my whole thought this morning. I am the proud father of 3 sons who have served the United States Air Force, and Tim Sullivan can relate to this. I thought about I'll be home for Christmas and what it means, and this is our last county commission meeting, I guess, for the year per se, public meeting. I wanted to wish and remember those United States Air Force, United States Army, United States Coast Guard, our United States Marine Corps, and the United States Navy, and our first responders, both local fire, county, and sheriff departments, that what it means to be home for Christmas. We take it for granted sometimes of all the blessings we have in our country. And as a father of 3 who have been deployed, it brings home a little different sentiment. And I'm sure we have families within Lake County that are experiencing this same thing, that they wish their son or daughter or their mother or father or their brother or extended family member was home for Christmas. And I did not want, as a council member in town of Montverde and as a citizen of the county of Lake County, to forget those. That it's amazing, that wonderful technology of Skype, and it's just something that first thing on Christmas morning when you see that loved one of yours either in South Korea or in the Middle East somewhere, and it's either hot or cold, and it just doesn't make the same Christmas present as sitting around the table and having them there. And I didn't want them to be forgotten. As a county, we need to reach out to them and say thank you for your service. You volunteered for this job, and we're here to back you. And we're here to say thank you. And Commissioner Sullivan, I know you spent 25 years in the United States Air Force. Thank you. And I'm sure you have sentiments of what boot camp was like, and you had a letter from home, and you didn't have Skype and all the new modern technology. But I didn't want them to slip through our fingers as a resident. We do a lot of things for different people, but they all volunteered to be where they are, and they chose that profession. And I want to say thank you to them, to our law enforcement who will be serving on duty, the firehouses when they're doing Christmas Eve and Christmas Day on their shifts, that we not forget them and to say thank you to them. And that's what I wanted to bring to you. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And Alan is a councilman in Montverde, and I think that was a really wonderful sentiment and something that we should all think about and appreciate.
And thank you for that sentiment. One minor correction. I was in the Army, but 17 years ago today, I was in a war zone in charge of thousands of soldiers and equipment, etc. And it is a difficult time for it. So I wanted to, along those lines, I was going to save it for my comments later, but the Wreaths Across America program that reached out, and I think anything and everything we can do for our veterans and our first responders, especially at this time of the year, is very difficult. There are well-deserved accolades, whatever that may be, and it just may be a simple thank you, and I think it makes a world of difference. So thank you, Councilman, for bringing that to our attention.
All right. Okay, we have no other public comments at this time, so we will go down for our employee awards, and Janine Nelson will handle that for us.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Janine Nelson with Human Resources and Risk Management. And this morning, you are recognizing employees who have reached significant milestones in their careers with Lake County. We are going to recognize both employees who have reached a certain number of years of service as well as some retirees as well. So we're starting with 5 years of service, and the first one up is Kimberly Haskins. Kim began her career with Lake County on November the 12th, 2013. She's a financial analyst with the Agency for Economic Prosperity. Kim, we thank you for your service. Our next recognition is Keith Lee. Keith began his career with Lake County on November the 12th, 2013. He is an Equipment Operator 1 with the Public Works Department. Keith, we appreciate your service. Thank you. Next, we have Justin Walker. Justin began his career with Lake County on November the 18th, 2013. He is a biological associate with the Public Works Department. Justin, thank you for your service. "20 years of service. Steve Earls. Steve began his career with Lake County on November the 1st, 1998. He is the Department Director for the Information Technology Department. Steve, we appreciate your years of service. Thank you. Our next two employees who are being recognized are both being recognized for their years of service as well as retirees, one for 20 years, the other for 30. We'll start with Denise Haynes. Denise began her career with Lake County on November the 9th, 1998. She's an Office Associate 3 with the Public Works Department. Lori Kuntz is going to come forward and speak about her career. Lori?
Thank you. Good morning. Denise began her career on November 9th, 1998 in the Road Operations Division of the Public Works Department as an Equipment Operator 1. She steadily moved through the ranks to become an Equipment Operator 2 and then an Equipment Operator 3. In January 2006, Denise switched her career from that of a field setting to an office environment and became an Office Associate 2. In October 2016, she became an Office Associate 3. Denise is married with 3 children, 11 grandchildren. She is very family-oriented and enjoys fishing. Upon her retirement, Denise plans to enjoy more fishing and spending more time with her family, especially her grandchildren. Thank you, Denise, for your 20 years of service to the citizens of Lake County, and your congratulations on your retirement.
Joan Hell is being recognized for 30 years of service, 1988. She's an Office Associate 4 with the Community Services Department. Allison Thal will come forward and speak about her career.
We are here today to recognize Joan, as Janine said, for her 30 years of service to Lake County, but in addition, we're also here to recognize her retirement. As Janine, I'm going to repeat a little bit. Joan began her career December 30th, just a couple days from now, 1988. With her tenure, that's been her tenure with Lake County, but I'll tell you, it has truly been a journey for her with us. She started her career working as a clerical assistant in the purchasing department and was quickly reclassified to a buyer contracting officer, a position which she held for 10 years. Beginning in March of 2000, she served as an administrative associate for the GIS department, where she assisted in the creation of the GIS addressing database consisting of more than 182,000 records. Her aptitude earned her a promotion to an addressing technician at GIS. 12 years later, Joan joined us in the Department of Community Services, where she serves as our Office Associate 4 for Health and Human Services. In an employee nomination for Joan for Employee of the Quarter, Joan was actually recognized as the epitome of outstanding customer service and dedicated to Lake County. She is as devoted to the residents as she is to the families that she serves. Joan provides excellent leadership. She establishes an environment of enjoyment and accomplishment. She is an ethical and professional leader who communicates with all members of our office, helping to ensure total success with the clients we serve. Joan will be greatly missed. However, we truly wish her tremendous joy in her retirement and know that she will be spending more and more time in Tennessee, soaking in the change of seasons and spending time with her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren and her entire family. Thank you so much for your 30 years of service to Lake County, and congratulations on your retirement.
I would also like to make mention of some employees who were not able to attend today. Shane Helton, recognizing him for 5 years of service. He's a firefighter EMT with the Office of Fire Rescue. Austin Hoffman, firefighter paramedic with the Office of Fire Rescue, also recognized for 5 years of service. Then also recognizing 2 retirees. Craig Scott, retiring after 30-plus years at the end of this month. He is the Mosquito and Aquatic Plant Program Manager in the Public Works Department. And retiring on January 4th, 2019, after 26-plus years of service, is Debbie Tennis, Financial Coordinator, Public Works Department, Environmental Services Division. Congratulations to those individuals as well. And this concludes the presentation this morning. Thank you.
Okay, moving along with our agenda. We have our Clerk of Courts consent agenda, tab 2, and we've got our clerk today with us, Mr. Cooney.
Chairwoman, respectfully request approval of the Clerk of Courts consent agenda this morning.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Moving now to consent agenda. That's tabs 3 through 25 and tab 31. And I know that Commissioner Breeden indicated she wanted to talk about something on the consent agenda.
Yes, well, I move approval of tabs 3 through 25 plus 31, and actually I just got some information that I need, so I won't be making a comment.
Okay. All right. That sounds like a positive thing.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Now we are at public hearings. And we have Mr. McClendon here to go over our agenda.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Board. Tim McClendon for the Office of Planning and Zoning, here to present the public hearings for December 18th, 2018. As you can see on the overhead, all the cases were properly advertised per the state statutes. And then jumping right in here, the consent agenda, tabs 1, 2, and 3, staff would simply request that the board find the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board consistent with the comp plan and approve those cases, as well as tab 4 has actually requested a continuance until the January Planning and Zoning hearing, and I can answer any questions you have on any of these cases.
Okay, and on the tab 4, is that an automatic continuance? Do we have to vote on it?
The board needs to make a motion on it.
Okay. All right. First, on the consent agenda, do we have anyone here today on tab 1, 2, or 3? That's the Garcia property, LMS boarding stable, or Elders of Mount Dora ALF that wishes to speak? All right. Seeing none, I call for a motion.
I move approval of the Planning and Zoning agenda, consent agenda, tabs 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then on tab 4, since this does require a vote to postpone, I need to recuse myself. And I will ask Commissioner Breeden to handle the taking of, I mean, I guess I can I continue to serve as a chair on it? I just would recuse myself from voting.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. So we have a request for a continuance and need to see if we have a motion to grant that.
Move for continuance for RZ 18-18-4.
Second.
All right, do we have any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record reflect that passes 4-0 with Campione recusing herself. The next item on our agenda is under Public Safety and Compliance, Planning and Zoning, tab 27, and Mr. McClendon is going to give us an overview on this request.
Thank you. For the record, Tim McClendon with the Office of Planning and Zoning, here to present a proposed amendment this morning, basically to rectify the impervious surface ratio, and I'm going to say this word a lot, the ISR. It's to rectify that ISR inconsistencies that are found between the comp plan and LDRs. And right off the bat here, I will apologize. This is a technical issue that we're dealing with. However, once you actually understand the issue and the actual proposed solution, you'll see that it's relatively simple. As for the outline, I'll briefly go over the existing code, the proposed amendment itself, our staff analysis, and of course the requested action. So right off the bat here, the ISR is actually identified in the land development regulations, or LDRs. It's simply defined as a surface which has been compacted or covered with a layer of material so that it's highly resistant to infiltration by water. It does include semi-pervious surfaces such as compacted clay, as well as most conventionally surfaced roads, roofs, sidewalks, parking lots, other similar surfaces. There are specific ISR standards contained within the comp plan in every future land use category. And the example that you see here on the screen identifies the urban low future land use category as 0.6 ISR, simply meaning that up to 60% of a lot may be covered with impervious surface. There are also specific ISR standards contained within the LDRs for every zoning district. And the example we show on the screen here is the zoning district R6 allows up to 55% coverage of impervious surface. Throughout our day-to-day permitting, we run into the number of these inconsistencies that are found between the actual future land use of a parcel and the zoning of that same parcel. The inconsistencies that I just described here actually create a profound hardship on a lot of non-conforming lots throughout the county. To better illustrate those inconsistencies, the example we use on the screen here identifies your typical quarter-acre residential lot with the future land use designation of urban low, and it's zoned agricultural. The issue is that a resident would have to come in to utilize the actual ag zoning ISR of 0.10 or 10%. And if you attempted to actually construct a home on a quarter-acre lot, the maximum amount of impervious surface you could place on that lot would be roughly 1,100 square feet. So the only viable solution at that point would be to construct a smaller house or obtain a variance or rezone the property. Last year, staff processed over 10 applications on this specific ISR provision and the inconsistencies that we found. And there's an old city planning adage basically states that if you have multiple variances requests on a single regulatory piece of code, it's time to revisit that code and see if there are available solutions for it. And what the actual proposed ordinance seeks to do is remedy those inconsistencies. It would allow non-conforming lots, as I previously just described in the example we used on the previous slide. First, it would allow lots to basically, it would utilize setback requirements of the zoning district that it most closely matches. So the example we use here is just over an acre-sized lot, zoned ag, would be allowed to utilize the R1 zoning setbacks, as that R1 district more closely resembles the one dwelling to 1 acre. Second, it would allow lots created prior to the comp plan being adopted to utilize ISR requirements of the zoning district it most closely matches. And the example we use here is a 16,000 square foot lot zoned ag would be able to utilize the R3 zoning designation. And along with this amendment, staff is actually proposing to increase the R3 and R4 zoning designation ISR to 55% or 0.55. And that very simply, the way that the R4 and R3 actually work, or in conjunction with the future land use category of urban low, those are identical. They're both of them identify as 4 dwelling units to the acre. So we're simply solving an inconsistency that's found between R3 and R4 in the urban low future land use. So we're just bumping that up to match the future land use or become more consistent with the future land use. As far as the analysis goes here, no impervious surface ratio can exceed the maximum future land use category designation. So the comp plan is still our guiding document on this issue. And as I mentioned, over 10 variance applications were approved last year due to that inconsistency. So with this proposed amendments, variances would no longer be needed. So what currently takes 60 to 90 days, depending on where we are in a cycle with the Board of Adjustment, we can now have that done over the counter in approximately 5 minutes. And a real-world example we use here, actually this is pulled just from the previous rezoning tab 4. The Windy Ridge subdivision platted back in 2004, should this amendment be passed, that R3 zoning designation over the entire property would be able to utilize the higher ISR without obtaining a variance or going through the rezoning process. So the Planning and Zoning Board did recommend approval back on November 28th. And very simply, the staff requests approval to advertise the ordinance to amend Appendix E, Land Development Regulations, Section 10803 and 30206, to revise the ISR inconsistencies found between the comp plan and the LDRs. And I can answer any questions you may have.
Questions, Commissioner Parks?
Thank you. Just to confirm, so again, in a nutshell, this is you're just kind of making things a little more consistent. And as far as when you increase ISR or any kind of changes to ISR, just to be clear, and it's on the record, then that won't have any effect on the stormwater permitting from the state water management or anything like that, right?
That's correct. All projects are designed to that maximum part of the comp plan. So no, they wouldn't be affected.
And they'll still have to go through getting their stormwater permits.
That's correct.
Through the state, yeah. Just wanted to make that clear for the record. Thanks.
Any other questions? And Melanie, I have a question too, because I recused myself on the prior case on the Windy Ridge subdivision, but because this is applicable across the county and it would be an LDR change, would I need to recuse myself on this issue?
No, you're fine to vote on this.
Okay. I had done my own analysis on that, and I thought that it was okay because it was broad reaching and it wasn't site specific, but I just wanted to confirm.
You're correct.
Thank you. Okay, if we don't have any other questions, do we have a motion?
I move approval of the requested action for tab 27.
Second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that passes 5-0. Okay, we are moving right along very quickly. I believe...
Madam Chairman, the next tab 28, is a presentation by Mike Perry at the Lake County Water Authority. We are trying to determine Mr. Perry's whereabouts right now.
He's not used to us being this far ahead of schedule.
We're still trying.
Yeah.
So if we could defer this one until later into your meeting.
Okay, all right, and we'll move ahead then to our request for approval of the resolution appointing individuals to positions on the Tourist Development Council to serve 4-year terms beginning December 1st, 2018, and an approval of waiver of potential ethical conflict for Kevin Jowett.
Move for approval.
Yeah, move for approval with the waiver. These are people that have served on the TDC and are active members already. And it's just confirming the 2 municipalities who've recommended these 2, and Kevin Jowett, who works in the industry, so he fills one of those important slots that is required to be on the TDC. So.
Okay.
I'll second your motion then.
Okay. So moved.
So Commissioner Sullivan made the motion, Commissioner Parks seconds the motion, and Commissioner Sullivan serves on that committee and has for some time. All right. Any other discussion about this? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes 5-0. Now we have to appoint 5 members to the new Metropolitan Planning Organization Community Advisory Committee. There's a little confusion over this.
I can help with that confusion.
Okay.
So in your packet, there are 5 current members listed that are part of the current CAC and the BPAC. And as you know, those committees are going away in favor of a new committee called the Community Advisory Committee. There are also 7 people listed there below in your packet that have expressed interest on this committee, but that is not, from our understanding, it is not to say that those 7 that are currently serving on the CAC and the BPAC are not interested. So we have reached out to the MPO to confirm that any of those in that first grouping that are currently serving on those 2 committees would be okay with the appointment, but it is our understanding that they would be.
Okay, all right, because I know that Mike Stevens has served some time on this committee on BPAC, and he's an avid cyclist, and those are exactly the kind of people that you want serving in these capacities. And so I think it's really important that we confirm whether they want to continue to serve. And I guess we only have 5 slots on the new committee.
Yeah, we do, but it was my understanding that it would basically there'd be enough spots for anybody that was interested.
Right, because a lot of times you have a hard time, getting everybody together for these meetings, and it's good to have them, even if we could do it as alternates and ask them to participate. So maybe we need to go back to the MPO and see if we can expand, or at least appoint the 5 and then try to expand, or appoint 5 and then do some alternates. And
I think, aren't there a lot more than just 5 members on the combined committee?
Well, the cities have appointees.
Oh, that's true.
Our member cities have appointments to these committees as well.
Yeah.
Well, I did check with, for District 3, I had appointed Greg Lewis to the BPAC, and he is interested in serving on the new committee, so I know that I would like to appoint him for District 3. So that takes care of one.
That takes care of one, and I would say, well, again, I think we need to just confirm.
My recommendation to the board would be to make the appointments that you wish to make, and we can make adjustments to that later at a later date. Our concern is getting the 5 members appointed prior to their first meeting in January, which the date hasn't been set, but your first meeting in January isn't until January 15th. Okay. So they may meet before you meet again.
Melanie, do you see any problem with us if we make the 5 and then we recommend additional slots or alternates, and we go ahead and move those names forward to see whether the MPO director could accommodate that?
I think you can do that. If we need to go back and adjust the ordinance, we can bring that back to you as well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because I think that there'll be room for pretty much everybody on here. Yeah, and we're still going to have if we have to do 5 today, that's still going to be hard because of those existing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 that are part of that top list, is what you're saying, right?
It's 7.
There's 7 that are currently serving.
Current, so we have to pick 5 out of those.
Before you are potentially picking 5 out of the top group and the small group. And for those that don't have the agenda in front of them, the top group is those that are currently serving. The bottom group is those that have expressed interest in serving. But it's not to say that the top group has not expressed interest in serving. And just to clarify, you have this board has 5, according to the MPO. This board has 5 appointments to make, and they do not have to be district specific. Total of 5.
And one more clarification on that. If we do need to make adjustments, we will have to take that back to the MPO, not this board.
If we want to have alternates.
Or we want to expand the number.
I think you want to expand it because, the BPAC had 8 to 10 that would show up pretty regularly. And then, I don't know what the CAC did, but I think that the intent was everybody was going to be together, combined.
So it's already going to be a big committee.
Yeah, well,
I thought the idea was for it to be a big committee, but they were going to move the meetings around all over in the county.
Correct.
For instance, they're going to reestablish the North Lake and South Lake Task Force and the Northwest Lake Task Force, and so there'll be plenty of opportunities to get people appointed. So.
And keep in mind that they are public meetings, so even if you don't appoint an individual, they can still go and participate in the meetings.
Another option, Madam Chairman, is I've heard pretty clearly today that Commissioner Breeden has somebody she'd like to appoint. Commissioner Blake and I have talked, and I believe he has somebody he'd like to appoint. If you'd like to make the appointments you're sure of today, then they can at least be seated when the new year starts, and we can come back with recommendations on the others with clarification.
Well, again, but just the people that have served on a long term, so I don't want to make it too complicated here, but I just don't want them to think all of a sudden we're not interested, because there's obviously, even if we pick 5 out of that 7, there's still going to be 2 that have been.
Okay, I have an idea. On the additional ones that have expressed interest that are not currently serving, do we have any recommendations that you definitely want to move forward, that you know for a fact that you want to move forward? And I believe Commissioner Blake does with Daniel Chancellor.
Yeah, I do. And like you said, I know it's not district specific, so that Mike Stevens doesn't create a problem, but I think Mike should still, obviously, he's great to have on there. But Daniel Chancellor is somebody who I've met with personally and is very, very interested and anxious to get involved and contribute in some way. I think he would be great, too.
Because I would recommend that we move forward the ones that are currently serving, subject to us confirming that they want to continue to serve. That we include Daniel Chancellor, and then any others on that list that you'd like to include at this time.
Well, that is, it's more than 5, but less than 10, so I don't know.
See, I had 2 from District 2, Garrett Paquette and Matthew Silbernagel. But I guess if I would have put one forward now, I'd go with Garrett Paquette, and then hopefully we can add more. We can get.
We have a dilemma because we certainly don't want to give any of them the impression that we do not want them to serve and participate, because we do need participation on this board. What?
I have an option 3, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
Option 3 is to not make any appointments today, and then we will let all of those members know that we are seeking clarification, but they are welcome to attend the first meeting if it precedes your meeting in January.
Okay, let's do that. Does that sound okay to everyone? Sure. We'll invite everyone, and then we'll look for a resolution with the MPO that would allow us to be more inclusive than less, and thank these individuals for wanting to participate.
Because I noticed even on some of the ones who have expressed an interest on their applications, MPO committees weren't checked, so I thought that was...
They knew they wanted to serve in that capacity, in an MPO capacity. Is that what you're saying?
But it didn't show on the application. There were some applications that were submitted, but the MPO was not checked with the MPO. So there was I had a little question mark on that too.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but if we limit it to 5, then you're going to
eliminate some of your folks that have already been serving.
Right, I'm not necessarily willing to give up my 2. Also, like Jose Lopez.
So maybe we can.
No, we'll bring it back. We'll bring it back to the next meeting, depending on what we're able to work out with the MPO, and if we've got to make some changes to the ordinance, we'll pursue it at that time.
Yeah, that's
okay?
a good idea.
Sounds good.
Those first 4 BPAC members, they showed up all the time.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let's plan on doing that. Okay. Well, we have Mr. Perry here with us, Executive Director of the Lake County Water Authority, to give us an update on all things related to lakes and rivers and water bodies in Lake County and all that you do at the Lake County Water Authority.
Thank you. Good morning. Being last almost on the agenda apparently doesn't mean anything time-wise, so I apologize.
Not on the meeting before Christmas.
Yeah, I guess. I understand that. So thank you for the opportunity to come and talk with you this morning. And what I wanted to do and what I had planned for, and I'd be certainly happy to take any questions if I don't hit the right targets, but I wanted to talk a little about lake levels and groundwater and just sort of the things that we've experienced over the past year or 2 since mostly since Hurricane Irma. Remember that all of the lakes and all of the rivers and all the streams and all the groundwater, it's all driven by rainfall. There's very few springs in lakes, in Lake County. Regardless of what your realtor might tell you about the lake that you've moved on, there are very few springs on lakes. Even Spring Lake that's in Lake County is not a spring-fed lake, so be careful about that. But what this graph shows is that even with all the rainfall that we've experienced this past year, that we're still just slightly below average. This was through November, and you can see that since 2004, there's only been 3 or 4 years that we've actually been above average rainfall. Generally, for the past 10 years or so, we've been below rainfall. In some cases, pretty significantly below average rainfall as well. So just remember, I guess it's through the whole process. If there's a message to take home, is that the system is driven by rainfall. When it rains, lakes come up. When it's dry, lakes go down. Pretty simple. This is the past couple of years. The green bars represent 2017, and the red bars represent rainfall for 2018 on a month-by-month basis. In 2017, we were really wet in June, and then followed up by Hurricane Irma in September that dropped a lot of rainfall throughout the county as well. These are averages of 5 rainfall gauges throughout the county. In 2018, this year, we had a very wet early part of the rainy season in May, and so the rainy season, or the dry season was wet, the rainy season was wet, but fortunately we didn't have a hurricane or any sort of tropical activity that would have really pushed us over the edge, because when you drive around the county, you still see places where there's a lot of standing water that we haven't historically seen in the past. And this This is a little hard to see, and I don't expect you to see all or pay attention to all the numbers, other than just to know we keep long-term records from 5 rain gauges throughout the county, distributed pretty much north to south. And you can see that during some years that some of the rainfall has been positive in most of the rain gauges. And for example, in Emeralda, this past in 2017, we had a significant surplus of rainfall there. But the year before that, it was a significant deficit. So it just sort of varies. There's no real rhyme or reason for it other than just rainfall, and historically we've gotten tropical activity that brings the lakes up. Over the past few years, up until about 2004, there wasn't any, and then from 2004 to 2015, there really wasn't much tropical activity as well.
Excuse me, Mike. I have a question on the locations. Oh, I don't know where Brown Shin Road is. I do know where Villa City Road is. I don't know where.
It's way down, almost in Polk County.
Okay. What about 474?
474 is like Four Corners area, a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit higher.
Okay.
State Road 474.
So Villa City is Groveland.
Yeah.
Where's M1?
M1 is at 48 and 470 in near Okompka.
Okay.
Emeralda is up further north in Tavares, obviously in the city.
Okay. So you don't have any further north than Emeralda? Okay.
No. And this is just a chart that represents annual, sort of a running average. And for the past 12 months, you can see where it varies throughout the county. Even in South Lake County, the Brown Shin Road, which is again further south in the Polk County, is a substantial deficit, where 474, Villa City, and M1 all showed pretty significant surpluses. And then again, Emeralda and Tavares were deficits. And that's why when I go back to that first graph about showing that we're just slightly below average, it's because the way that the rainfall is sorted itself out.
Although December might change that.
It may very well. Yeah, we're not done with December yet. I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. The rainfall, though, this is St. Johns River Water Management District data, and the rainfall on the graph to the left essentially shows that the areas in blue were more than 60 inches. The areas in dark green are 50 to 60, and the lighter colors were less rainfall. So it's kind of in the center part of St. Johns District. The northern part of Lake County was an excess rainfall, and then the central is about the same in certain areas. And then, but what I wanted to also use this graph for is to show you the potentiometric surface, which is where the levels that the groundwater would come to. And you can see that there are increases in groundwater levels throughout generally the center part of the St. Johns, again, the northern part of Lake County, and a little bit, and even further towards the southern part, that there's been an increase in groundwater tables. As a matter of fact, this is a graph from a well near Lake Yale. This upper line represents the average, the maximum monthly averages. This is the monthly averages, the minimum monthly averages, and then this is where the water level was. And towards the end of the summer, we were actually approaching, according to St. John's, we were approaching 20-year highs for groundwater throughout the county. So even though there was no tropical activity at the time, because we've had significant amount of rainfall, that there was nowhere for the rain to go, for the water to go. It couldn't percolate into the ground. It would just accumulate at the surface, and that's why you're seeing we've been seeing a lot of standing water throughout Lake County. We were all a little bit nervous, excuse me, when towards the end of the summer, when the hurricanes were really brewing up. And Chairman Sullivan pulled us all together one day to ask us, are we ready, and what can we do? And we were as ready as we could be. We were just kind of watching the rainfall. Unfortunately, knock on wood, that we didn't see a hurricane that year. Putting a hurricane conditions on top of already very wet conditions was a recipe for potential disaster. So we were fortunate that we didn't do that. But you need to know now that there's still excuse me, there's still a significant amount of standing water, and there's still a good bit of groundwater that's still in the system. So what can we do to control water levels? In the Harris chain, St. John's actually has flood control structures, and they operate those structures to protect the water levels and for drainage and for flooding in that Lake Harris chain. They're designed to let water out so that they can allow for control for flooding. Lake Apopka is controlled by the Apopka Beauclair Lock and Dam. Oops. The middle lakes, Lakes Beauclair, Doris, Eustis, and Harris, are controlled by the Burrell Spillway, and the Lake Griffin is controlled by Moss Bluff. So the district has the opportunity to provide flood control by letting water through those lake systems. They're all operated based on a schedule that this is, if the water levels are sufficient to hold it at this level. This in Lake Apopka, this is the schedule that they would want to hold, bring it down in the summer for flood storage, bring it up during the winter to hold water in. Lake Eustis, Lake Griffin, they've adjusted it a little bit where they're holding the lake a little higher, longer, not letting quite as much out, and then bringing it back up to the summer. So these are based on a certain schedule. Let me run through the individual lakes as of yesterday. This is Lake Apopka as of yesterday, and this reflects the rainfall that we saw, what was it, over the weekend, Friday, whatever it was, the recent rainfall that we saw. It actually was Friday, that it bumped up Lake Apopka to the point where it's at regulatory schedule. Again, this graph down here represents the discharge through the spillway versus the rainfall. So you'll see that on all the graphs. And based on the past year, this is Lake Apopka. Oh man, bless you. This is Lake Apopka over the past year. And it was, during the summer, Lake Apopka was above the regulatory schedule for most of the summer. And then it finally was able to come below it. And then there's the discharges down here. This is through NERF, and these are through the spillway. And so there was a significant amount of water that they had to release in order to try to prepare for any potential hurricanes, because we knew what happened after Irma. Here is Lake Dora and Lake Eustis. Similarly, the lake level from Friday, or the rainfall from Friday, brought the lake level in Dora actually up slightly above regulatory schedule. And Eustis and Harris are at regulatory schedule, or just slightly above as well.
Hey, Mike, quick question. When those levels go up like that, like rapidly as a result of a big storm, with the stormwater improvements that have been put in place over the last couple decades, do you see changes in the water quality one way or the other? Does the bad stuff get diluted, or does it actually mean that you have worse water quality?
Generally, it's better because of the stormwater treatment systems that are in place. Within a lake, it's dilution is really the only way to describe it, and it depends. When you get significant rainfall amounts like we had last Friday, not only is there a little dilution in the lake, but you're also washing some stuff to the lake. Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of a wash, but generally, overall, things are getting better. And I've got data to show that, but I didn't bring it.
What about Lake Apopka? Is that pretty much the case as well? If it's diluted, then those numbers look better?
When lake levels are higher in Lake Apopka, there's not that contribution from the suspended sediments that are at the bottom coming up into the water column. So the higher the water level in Lake Apopka, generally the better the water quality will be. And that's why they don't like letting the water down, because then it
concentrates it.
Exactly, and it allows for the wave action to stir up that unconsolidated fine sediments at the bottom, the goop that's at the bottom that would cause water quality problems in Lake Apopka. So their perspective and desire is to keep it higher, as high as they can. But we have to stay within the regulatory schedule as well. This is the past year on Eustis, Harrison, Dora, and this is the red line is Lake Dora, and you can see that that was well above regulatory schedule because they've been trying to move water out of that system. And in Lake Dora, the constriction is the Dora Canal. You can only let so much water through the Dora Canal, and because of the configuration of the Dora Canal, so that you have to leave. You would expect that there would be lag time for draining Lake Dora because of the constriction in the Dora Canal. But generally, everything else was around regulatory schedule. The district was able to do that, and again, these are the releases here through Burrell, and they actually opened up Harris Bayou for a little bit. That's the connection between Lake Harrison and Lake Griffin, in order to provide a little bit more flood protection as well. So the district did a good job this past year, trying to manage lake levels because we all of the experience we had with Irma. And here it's Lake Griffin. I don't think I skipped one. Nope. Here's Lake Griffin, and Lake Griffin likewise responded to that significant amount of rain, almost 2.7 inches of rain that occurred during that one event on last Friday. And the difference between Griffin and the other lakes on the Harris chain is that Griffin had been below regulatory schedule since late August, that it just for whatever reason, there wasn't significant rainfall in that part of the district or that part of the county, and it just Griffin never really got to regulatory schedule. So that this rainfall we've gotten recently has been positive for Lake Griffin as well. So let's look at our neighbors to the south in the Claremont chain. This represents 1 month of information for the Claremont chain, and the difference between the Claremont chain and the Harris chain is that we establish a regulatory range in the Claremont chain, meaning from 96 to 97.5 feet, without an actual regulatory schedule. There's no planned place where the water levels ought to be. So as long as the system is managed within that regulatory schedule, all is well. And in the Claremont, this is the response from the Friday rainfall in the Claremont chain, and it drives the lakes up pretty well also. And again, the regulatory range is from 96 to 97.5. So we are at 96.9 thereabouts. We're just slightly above the middle of that regulatory range right now. We take a look back for the past 6 months. This was the middle of the summer when there was so much rain everywhere. There was groundwater levels were high, and we were still well within the regulatory range at 97.4, except people were starting to get a little nervous about that, and we'll talk about the folks in Emerald Lakes for just a second, but everything was well within the regulatory range, stayed within the regulatory range, and never got above the regulatory range for the entire year, the entire past 6 months. If we look at the past year, we are actually at this point just a little bit slightly lower than we were the same time last year. And last year in December, we were still dealing with the remnants from Irma, that we were still trying to move water through the system from the Big and Little Creek basins as well. So we're actually a little bit better this time of year than we were last year. Back in 2014 is when we first saw a significant amount of rainfall in the later part of the calendar year that actually brought the lake levels up. And then since then, we get the seasonal lowering of the lake based on dry conditions and lack of rainfall. So when the rain comes, the water comes up. When the rain stops, the lake levels decline. This was 27. This was Irma, and the effect that we had on Irma, and actually it brought us up above the regular schedule for about a couple of weeks, but not much. It was like 97.8 thereabouts, only about 0.3 of a foot above the regulatory schedule, and then the lake was able to bring back down within the regulatory range. And we often hear from people saying that particularly down here,